All right. The live button has been hit. I believe we are live. What is going on, everybody? This is Randall19, the man with the million, back again with another episode, a Friday episode of the Xbox 2. And with me, as always, is Resident Evil 2, Jez Corden of Windows Central. I love how you always change your name on Twitter to represent maybe what you've been playing. What's going on, buddy?
Hey man, rock and roll, baby. I've changed my name again now. It's now Jez Effect 2.
Oh, Jez Effect 2. It was Resident Evil 2. Now it's...
I wanted to. I put Jez Effect Legendary Edition, but it was a bit long, so I just shortened it a bit. But yeah, can you tell what game I've been playing recently?
Yeah. You know what? I need to make sure that I'm not muted. So hold on.
Oh yeah, I love people have been like hammering you on Twitter all week about that.
Yeah, they have. Funny. Randall muted 19. Yeah, every time I tweet something, it's like, I don't know, Rand, I can't hear you. I think you're muted, and it's like, oh man, here we go again with all this stuff. But yeah, you know, it's been an eventful week, Jez. I played a ton of Resident Evil, and a little bit of Mass Effect as well. So I can't wait to talk about everything that we going on. But how you been? You doing all right? Is everything okay over there in UK or Germany, where you're at this month? I never sometimes you're like I'm in Germany this week, mate, and then some other times you're like I'm in the UK. So where are you at now?
I'm in the UK. I've been in the UK since last June because the lockdown. I'm not allowed to leave. There's a tourism ban. You can only travel for work, and they won't let me go back to Germany. So I'm stuck here for as long as the government says it. But yeah, I've had a pretty eventful week, man. It's been super busy. The E3 season just ramped up out of nowhere. So I've been doing game previews for stuff I can't talk about. Several game previews of really cool games that are on the way, and I can't wait to talk about those. So, you know, I'll talk about them here, but also keep an eye on windowscentral.com for that. Shameless plug. Other than that, last weekend I went exercising. As you know, I've been on this dieting kick.
Mm-hmm. And you're doing pretty damn good.
Yeah, doing pretty good. Now lost over 50 pounds.
50 pounds?
50 pounds, yeah.
It's like a small kid.
Yes, it is. Like since I started dieting at the end of February, so I lost 50 pounds in about 3 months or so. So keep trying to keep up with that, but on Saturday I sprained my ankle and couldn't walk. So trying to exercise like some kind of, I feel like an old man right now because I'm literally just limping everywhere. But that's pretty much been my week, man. Just working, sprained ankle, limping around, and playing Mass Effect and Resident Evil Village. But yeah, you been all right? Everything all right in Randall muted land?
Yeah, everything's pretty good. You know, I had recorded some Mass Effect footage, and I was like, you know, I think people want to see, you know, the improvements that the game has made from the 360 version to this Xbox One, you know, Series X enhanced version. But I don't know, the Xbox game DVR sometimes just does not work right, because when I brought it over to my PC, it was completely black. You couldn't see anything, and that's not the first time that's happened. And I think you said it's happened to you too. Maybe it's something you should write an article about on Windows Central to see if you can get Jason Ronald to respond about why sometimes, you know, when you record something. I don't know, anybody in chat, if you've recorded something to share out on Twitter, you ever noticed that sometimes the clips you've recorded are like too dim? They're not like fully bright or whatever. I know a lot of people have had that issue. Have you had it, Jez?
Yeah, man. It's something to do with HDR, you know. But it's stupid because I actually set my Xbox to not take screenshots in HDR because it can mess things up. But I think it's some sort of bug with the auto HDR, maybe something like that. Like I recorded a bunch of Mass Effect footage as well, and that was fine. But my Resident Evil Village footage was all dark as well. So what causes it seems to be inconsistent. But I'll, you know, Microsoft needs to get better at some of this stuff. Part of it's just, you know, the foibles and weird crap about HDR and the way it intersects with the game DVR system. But like, I feel like unless you're unless you know that, it's going to be really confusing for regular consumers. So I might reach out to Microsoft and ask what the hell's going on with that. But I think they are aware of issues with the HDR thing. I know in the insider build there's a bug right now which creates artifacting sometimes on the game DVR. So I suppose they are looking at some issues with it. But man, I do wish it worked better. That's off topic quite a bit.
It is. It is a little bit off topic, but it is something I wanted to mention. But we got a couple super chats here supporting you, Jez. Rated Demonic says, "I joined the gym and lost 40 pounds first day. Membership fee." Laugh. Keep it going, Jez, my man. And Flame says, "Hey, Jez, what's your secret to weight loss? And congrats. You know, yeah, losing a bunch of weight is impressive. You know, so what is your secret? Share it with everybody who wants to get slim and look beautiful like yourself."
It's just calorie counting. It's literally just calorie counting. I built spreadsheet in Excel. I didn't use any of these fancy apps. I think the fact that I'm working out of an Excel spreadsheet I made myself somehow makes it feel more official, like a personal project rather than some weird fad app. I don't know. It's a psychological thing, but I've been working out of an Excel spreadsheet which shows the whole week and then the average of calories I had every day. And I'm just trying to keep it at around 1,200 calories a day. And yeah, it's the way it's dropping off. And also making sure I do like, a few kilometers of walking every week when my ankle isn't sprained. But yeah, that's all it is, man. It's calories. Calories in, calories out. It's just maths, I don't have time to do any of these complicated diets or research, all this sort of stuff. I tried intermittent fasting, I tried the keto diet, and none of them they were just too complicated for me around my lifestyle. It's about finding a diet that fits within your lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
And the calorie counting's the one that works for me. It worked last time I lost weight, and it's working this time too. So that's all it is. But hopefully, when I've lost another 100 pounds, I can start my modeling career, man.
Yeah, next year at E3, if there is another E3, you're gonna be a model. You're gonna be Xbox is gonna throw all their T-shirts and hoodies at you and ask you to walk down the runways to take some pictures. Aquaman has a question. Did anyone sell their Series X for Bang & Olufsen headset, which you recently reviewed? And I think you said you really couldn't recommend it to anybody, right? It's a really good headset, but it's way too expensive, was basically your verdict, right?
Man, it's so strange. Like I'll just talk about the Bang & Olufsen, but it's called BioPlay Portal headset just quickly because I do get a lot of questions about it. So the BioPlay Portal is a $500 Xbox headset. It's cost the same amount as an Xbox Series X, and it is a crazy ask. But you have to remember, this headset it's a lifestyle headset, Rand. It's designed for outdoor use, using it at the office, for music, and it just happens to also have Xbox Wireless. So if you're someone who uses a headset all the time, you commute a lot, you listen to music all the time, you want like the most advanced Bluetooth tech, like it's 5.1, and it's also got the Qualcomm Apple connectivity thing in it. It's also got like really lightweight design, really premium materials, really sort of like compact, dense construction. I understand why it's $500, man. It's just really high quality. Yeah, it's like Dano says in chat, they're headphones, not a headset. They are literally music headphones that also do Xbox Wireless on the side. So it's like, if you are someone who has a lifestyle where you use headphones all the time, they might be worth it for you. If you use headphones when you're commuting to work, if you use them when you're at work in the office, and then you also want headphones that you can use at home with your Xbox, they might just about be worth it. But for me, I've got like a pair of Samsung earbuds, which I think are fine for outdoor use. And I've got like a bunch of other Xbox headsets that are much cheaper, which are fine for Xbox use. So if you're someone on a budget, or to be honest, just anyone with a regular income, I would never recommend these. But at the same time, it's kind of like they're also kind of cool. And if you are like someone who uses them a lot and wants something that looks fashionable, then I think they might be worth it for some people. And also, they've got active noise cancelling, which literally no Xbox headset has. These are the only Xbox headset with active noise cancelling. So I can't knock them too much. They did grow on me. I went in with a bad attitude, man. I was like,
You
this
did.
headset
You
is
did.
ridiculous.
You were DMing me like when you started using him. Is like you're like yikes. I'm like, oh man, this isn't gonna be a good one.
Yeah, I had trouble connecting it up to the app, and I was just like, this. I want this experience to be perfect if they're $500. But the more I used them, the more I realized they're just not for me. You know, they're not for me. So yeah, like if you're someone who likes the headphone lifestyle, you might love them. But literally, they are for that lifestyle. They're lifestyle they're lifestyle headphones. They are not an Xbox headset. So they just happen to also have Xbox Wireless. So, but yeah, that's that. You know, if you've got cash to burn and you like using headphones a lot, go and buy them.
You know,
But if you're anyone else, don't buy them.
I'm
Do
great.
not buy
I'm grateful that I have my Xbox Wireless headset as a backup to my Astray 50s because the latest Alpha Insider update borked the A50s. They don't work.
Really?
I could, yeah. Well, they don't pick up party chat and any of the audio. So like I was trying to in a party to talk to people and nothing. So I had to switch to the Xbox Wireless headset, the official one, and that worked. So it's always good to have a backup headset in case Microsoft always screws up something else. And I do believe they are fixing it. So that's awesome because I prefer the A50s for the comfort feature. Like I think the Xbox Wireless headset's like too small for my head. It's not very comfortable. So, but it's nice to have a little backup. RDX says, is it just me or does Spawncast need a Xbox commentator? Also, Quick Resume is officially Quicker Resume. We'll talk about that in a bit. And I've been on Spawncast quite a bit. I always appreciate it when John sends me an invite to talk about Xbox and stuff, but a lot of those guys are just Nintendo dudes, which is nothing wrong with that. I think Nate knows a lot about Xbox, and so does MVG. I do hear that a lot from people, but people like what they like. Lucas says, "What's with these PlayStation babies on Twitter saying Game Pass number aren't monthly active users? They'll just post the goalpost day after day." Rated Demonic says, head just exploded from the hype boys. Rick Gaffney says, Randall muted. That's going to live with me for a while. Dovakin says, those Starfield 2018 build images look really good. Which, I think we were talking a little bit about that before the show.
Yeah.
We'll talk a little bit about it on the show as well. And thank you to Kevin Potts for becoming the newest member of the channel. Really appreciate it. Enjoy all the emotes and everything. And shout out to everybody in the podcast already. A lot of people here. Pong Soul, I see you, brother. Welcome. Violet Femme, Saz X is I don't know how to say this name, but I believe you're a Gears of War creator, aren't you? I could have sworn I've watched some of your videos if I'm not mistaken, but I don't know how to say your name. I apologize for that. Shinzo, what's going on? Ice Queen Gaming, Lorne, welcome everybody. Of course, Lethal Papa is keeping it clean in chat, getting rid of all the trolls, which is something I really do appreciate. So welcome everybody. Hope everyone will enjoy the show. What else we got here? Patrick says Jeff Grubb went on Kind of Funny and said he wasn't sure if Starfield was exclusive. You'll have to set that man straight. He can't keep getting away with it. I actually watched what he said on Kind of Funny, and he seemed pretty confident that it was, or he seemed much more sure it was going to be exclusive than Greg or Tim or Blessing. Greg was of the opinion that it has to be multi-platform, and even Tim was kind of saying the same. Jeff, when asked directly about it, said he thought it would be exclusive, at least day one. He said there's obviously maybe it could come to PlayStation a year later. I'm pretty positive that the game's at least Xbox. I made bets about it, so I'm just going to be like, it's exclusive. Will it come to PlayStation down the road? Maybe, but I sincerely doubt it. And I know people will talk about it, be like, is it coming this year? I don't know. who knows about anything coming this year? Who knows what games are coming this year, right? So, yeah. What else we got here? Oh yeah, it's game time, Jez. I mean, we got a bunch of topics to talk about. Xbox teasing a mind-blowing new IP, Coalition switching to Unreal Engine 5, the May update where quick resume's getting quicker, Xbox partnering with Tencent and for maybe like mobile games over in China. Xbox finally starting a console purchase pilot program because it's impossible to get these systems. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different stuff here me and Jez wanted to talk about during the show. But before we get all that, Jez, what have you been playing, buddy? I know it's going to be Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Is it any better than the Mass Effect that you played in 2007?
So yeah, man, I was kind of cynical about this Legendary Edition because we have had like some of the enhancements from Xbox backwards compatibility. So I was like, how can it like be significantly better than what's already there anyway and stuff like that. But and also, you know, EA being EA, I just have low expectations of anything they do in general. But honestly, they've done a really good job with this, I think. I saw some people who like they didn't like some of the lighting changes and felt that it affected the feel of the previous game. But I don't see it that way because if you want the previous game, you can go and play the previous game. It's right there on backwards compatibility. You can go and experience it as it used to be if you want to. I like the new lighting. I think it looks more dynamic. It looks, you know, I like seeing it in a different light, you know, to be literal about it. And I love the depth of field they've added and some of the stuff like that. And also, there's just like a ton of small tweaks they've added. Like the aiming with the Mako car is so much better now. And it's got better sound effects and it's punchier. They've also added like much better shooting mechanics. There's hit markers. It's more obvious when you get a headshot. They also removed a lot of the they sort of scale back some of the RPG mechanics that are against the shooting mechanics. They sort of made it more like Mass Effect 2, where you're not punished. Your accuracy isn't punished, and the weapon sway isn't punished until the end of the game. Like you can't in Mass Effect, if you're playing a sniper, you basically can't aim properly until the end of the game in the original because you need all the upgrades and stuff. But they massively enhanced that. So it just right out of the box, it just plays a lot more like Mass Effect 2, which I heavily favor because I think Mass Effect 2 is the best one of the trilogy. So
say that again. Say it louder for the people in the back. Say what Mass Effect game's the best?
Mass Effect 2 is the best Mass Effect ever made. And you know, so anyone who says otherwise is just frankly wrong. But anyway, and also they fixed a lot of the weird, annoying bugs, like with some of the side quests. Like one of the side quests for like the last, how many years is it? 14 years, 15 years? I don't know. But there was always this, in that creeper mission where you have to go and scan the creepers, there was one creeper that would always be invisible until you like left and returned to the area or something, which was so irritating. But they've even fixed like little bugs like that. Some of the boss fights have like new mechanics even. They tweaked some of the stuff to make things more interesting. They nerfed the hit points on the Geth armatures, so it's less of a slog just waiting for the cannon to reload before you can shoot it again and keep running it over and over again. So a lot of the stuff that was boring and annoying or just, you know, grindy and unnecessary have been vastly improved. And I love the visuals. I love the photo mode. I love they added ground clutter on some of the planets that, you know, make them slightly more interesting to drive around. And just loads of all these little tweaks and the combat. And I just remember why I love Mass Effect in the first place all over again. I feel like there's just no way I could go back to the original after playing this one.
Yeah.
I haven't tried Mass Effect 2 or 3 yet, but Mass Effect 1, the collection of small improvements has just been amazing.
I think most of the improvements are going to be for Mass Effect 1. I mean, obviously the gameplay. I've only played it for like, I did Eden Prime, and I'm on the Citadel doing stuff, and I'm just sitting there just remembering how much I love the series. I'm listening to all the conversations. God, I love Mass Effect so much. So my original playthrough back in 2007 when I was playing Mass Effect was I was a dude, I was regular Shepard, dude Shep, and I played as a renegade. My Shepard would do whatever it takes to make sure the galaxy was safe. So I was a renegade, and I loved doing renegade because it was just a lot of fun just being a dick to people, you know what I mean? I'm not like that in real life. So it's just like, and normally I'm the good guy in my video games. Like I'm always like trying to save everybody, but for whatever reason, I felt Renegade was so satisfying. It was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna be that person. So when I decided to replay Mass Effect, the Legendary Edition, because I was going back and forth, it was like, do I want to do it? And I was just like, you know what? Yeah, you love the series, replay it. I decided to play as FemShep, and I'm gonna do a Paragon playthrough because I wanted to at least be a little bit different from what I remembered my original playthrough as. And I know people talk up how good Jennifer Hale's voice acting is as FemShep in this series. So I'm like, I'm going to have to experience it. And so I've only played through Eden Prime, which is the tutorial planet, as most people know. But I can already see the improvements. It looks a lot better. And more importantly, it plays a lot better. I mean, it definitely plays a lot more like Mass Effect 2. And yeah, I mean, can't wait to continue on with the journey. I mean, I haven't really gotten much farther than that, so I don't really have much to say other than like it's what I wanted. Emperor Zergi says, if you've seen the random half-screen second load menu during gameplay, I have seen that. Like when I took the elevator in Eden Prime, there was like a second load screen or second. It was kind of weird. It must be there for like the Xbox One and Xbox One X versions or whatever. So I did run into a weird glitch, and I think this is pretty much most people run into. So when you actually start up the game, and if you have a wireless headset attached, it crashes the game back to the dashboard, which is the weirdest bug I've ever seen. If any of you guys are playing Mass Effect Legendary Edition, have you run into this? Because, so my A50s don't work right now because of whatever Xbox update happened. So I'm using the Xbox wireless headset. So you actually have to start the game, get into the launcher, which, by the way, only Mass Effect 1's installed from the get-go. You have to actually download 2 and 3 from the launcher. So then you have to launch whatever game you want to play, and then you can turn on your wireless headset to actually start playing. It's such a weird bug that I don't know how that didn't get fixed before the game actually came out.
It is weird. I do wonder if it's because Mass Effect has this like unique launcher system, which I think a few other games have it, but like not many games have it. But Mass Effect has this like launcher which lets you install different parts of the game on Xbox. So like if you don't want to play Mass Effect 2 and 3, you don't have to install the whole thing to get it. And I do wonder if it's something related to that or a new API which somehow, has a small code bug in it or something that weirdly interacts with the Xbox wireless protocol or something. But it is a weird bug. I'd love to like find out exactly what the hell caused it.
It is so weird. I've never experienced any of that where you start the game up and it just crashes because you have an external headset hooked up. And then like the workaround is like literally just start the game you want to play and then turn your wireless headset back on. But it doesn't crash if you have a wired headset. It's just really weird. But, I mean, I don't know. I think I'm like 2 hours into Mass Effect. I'm on the Citadel doing all the different like little missions that they kind of give you in the beginning. And I'm just like, oh man, this is one of my favorite games of all time, which leads me to I wanted to talk briefly about this, right? We're going to be talking about 20 years of Xbox later. So like some of our best Xbox like moments that we have. With Resident Evil Village and Mass Effect coming out, I consider those two franchises top 10 franchises of all time. And you guys can participate in chat. I'm going to ask you, Jez, and this is, you probably won't be able to answer it because I'm putting you on the spot, and don't worry, I'll answer it too. What are your top 5 franchises of all time? And chat, if you want to put down what your top 5 franchises of all time, you can. I want to see everybody's, because I was thinking about this because Resident Evil, Mass Effect, two great franchises. But if you had to pick from all the different franchises from Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox, third party, what would be your top 5?
My top 5, well, Resident Evil and Mass Effect definitely in there. honestly, I'd probably put Fallout in there. The Elder Scrolls I'd put in there.
Mm.
And then what would I pick for number 5? That's quite tough. I mean, in the past, I would have said Metal Gear Solid, but I really Metal Gear Solid 5 left a really sour taste. So I don't know. Man, I really have to think about what I pick for number 5, actually.
I mean, come
That's
on,
quite
Jez. How
tough.
am I thinking of it and you don't even know? You're not going to say
I'd probably
Pokemon or
put
something?
No.
No,
I'd
thank
probably
God.
put
I got so much respect for you for not having Pokemon in your top 5.
Nah, definitely not. Not in top 5. I'd probably put Witcher as my 5th top
Witcher.
because
That's interesting.
I loved all of them. I love The Witcher 1, even though it was janky as hell. I loved The Witcher 2, even though it was sort of, a bit strange in places. And man, did you ever experience The Witcher 2's
I
game breaking bug?
I don't think I ever experienced Witcher 2's game breaking bug. No.
There was some weird game breaking bug where if you did a quest in the wrong order at some point, it would break the whole game. And I hit that bug. So I had to start over from the beginning and like make sure to carefully avoid this game breaking bug. And then Witcher 3 is just one of my favorite games of all time. So
So you, so
I
you
definitely have to
said
put
Resident Evil was one of yours, top 5. You said Mass
yeah,
Effect was another one.
yeah,
You said Elder Scrolls and you said Fallout, right?
yeah.
And your 5th was Witcher.
Witcher.
So no
Yeah.
Gears? Gears ain't in the top 5?
No.
Wow. For as much as you talk about it, wow. I mean, we got Trey Duke saying Halo, the Soul series, Monster Hunter, Resident Evil, God of War. That's no Monster Hunter, Jez, in your top 5. Wow. Like,
I'm quite new to the Monster Hunter franchise. Like, I love Monster Hunter as a game, but as a franchise, I haven't really got that much experience with it. I've only really played Monster Hunter World, and I didn't want to play Monster Hunter Rise because I just can't handle the Switch anymore, man. The Xbox Series X has spoiled me. I need that Switch Pro stat.
you need
But
to Switch
anyway,
Pro, yeah.
I need to Switch Pro. But it's just those are the franchises that I've spent the most time with. The franchises that I love the most, like historically, I guess. Like I've played Resident Evil. Like is one of the first franchises that I really loved, and one that's sort of remained consistently one of my favorite franchises all the way through, except for like Resident Evil 6, which I haven't even completed because I was so bored with it. I really need to go and probably finish that off. But I don't know, there was a time as well where I would have put Metal Gear Solid up there. I would have put like Silent Hill in there. There was a time when I'd put Final Fantasy in there even. But a lot of these franchises sort of like fell out.
It's
like I sort of see it like a league table, right? Like it's like Metal Gear Solid after Metal Gear Solid 5, Phantom Pain, that slipped down the league table a bit. Final Fantasy 15, that slipped down the league table a bit, and obviously 13, I hated that game. And 14's an MMO, which I just can't get into it, no matter how hard I've tried. And so yeah, those have slipped down the league table. So like, if we sort of expanded out to like top 15 or top 10 franchises, I'm sure some of that stuff will get in there. But I can't even pick Gears for like my top of all time because I just can't get into the multiplayer, man. Like I love the campaigns, but I feel like if it's my top franchise of all time, I have to love all aspects of it, and I just don't. So, yeah, it is what it is, man.
It is what it is. John G says Pokemon, Mass Effect, Assassin's Creed, Elder Scrolls, Arkham. I mean, there's a lot of picks here from people. Like Xbox Era says Halo, Dead Space, Batman, Arkham, Mass Effect, Elder Scrolls. Mini Yeti says Halo, Elder Scrolls, Pillars of Eternity, Overwatch, Silent Hill. Dova says Last of Us, Halo, Uncharted, Age of Empires, Mass Effect. I mean, people are just going on. I love seeing like different lists from stuff. Like for me, because I was thinking about it. Like Pong Soul says Elder Scrolls, Mass Effect, Bioshock, Tomb Raider, Assassin's Creed. So, Subzetic says, how is Jez not saying Warcraft? I know, right? Like, how is Jez not saying Warcraft?
Well, again, it's kind of like I haven't even played Warcraft 1 or 2. And then Warcraft 3 is great, but it's also an RTS, and I don't really play RTS multiplayer. I played Warcraft 3's campaigns, but I don't really play the multiplayer. So there's an aspect of that I don't like. And while I do have 10,000 hours playing in World of Warcraft as an MMO, it's just sort of like a lot of that time spent in that game was being angry at the game. uh, or just standing around in Orgrimmar, doing nothing. Warcraft fans know what I talk about.
Yeah.
Like I have a love-hate relationship with Warcraft, and also kind of mad at Blizzard now. So Warcraft sort of slipped out the top of the league table. But like Resident Evil shot right up there with the last few games they've released. So yeah, those are mine, man. It's a good difficult question.
It is. I mean, it would be a little bit easier if you expanded it out to 10. 5 is like, man, you're really kind of thinking like, oh, what is the top 5? Doovie says Zelda, Command and Conquer, Mario, Call of Duty, and Grand Theft Auto. So for me, number 1 is Halo. All right, it's got to be Halo. Halo's my favorite franchise of all time. I can't wait to see what Halo Infinite's going to be about. So Halo's got to be on there. Number 2 is probably Grand Theft Auto. 3, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, Vice City, 4, 5. You're talking about... Grand Theft Auto 3 is still one of those games that I remember playing for the first time and literally couldn't believe what I was seeing on my screen, right? Then we probably get into Mass Effect. And Halo's number 1, and the rest of them, after that are a little bit more unranked. The Mass Effect series, which is probably the reason I'm replaying it, is definitely in my top 3. Then there's Final Fantasy. So my top 4 is Halo, Grand Theft Auto, Final Fantasy, and Mass Effect, right? And then it kind of gets to, like, when you come down to number 5, there's just, like, so many. It's, like, Dead Space, and then you think, like, what about Gears of War? But I'm just going to say, for me, personally, I like the BioShock series would be like number 5. Like the original BioShock and BioShock Infinite, like, were so amazing. And 2 wasn't no slouch either.
Man, I actually, when you asked that question, BioShock did pop into my head, but I was just like, I didn't like Infinite that much.
I loved Infinite. And I know I don't have any Nintendo stuff in my top 10. I know a lot of people, if you ask them, they'd be like the Zelda or the Mario series or whatever. I mean, Batman Arkham and stuff like that would be up there. And everybody has some great lists. Alvin says Borderlands, Halo, Dark Souls, Mass Effect, Diablo. I know a ton of people would have Dark Souls. I know a lot of people would have like God of War or Uncharted, and maybe you could flesh that out more if you expanded it to a top 10. But yeah, those would be my top 5. Like, nothing is gonna top Halo for me, probably ever. And I don't know, man. It was a conversation I had with Lord Cognito and Lord Addict when we were talking about top franchises. So I figured it'd be a nice little something that we can talk about here on the podcast. Andy Hart says Silent Hill, Gears, Dead Space, my top 3. And Red Cloud Gamer says Zelda, Last of Us, Grand Theft Auto, Mario, Final Fantasy. Ask Jez his top 5 Xbox only franchises. ZX says Rand, no Splinter Cell. Ooh. Yeah, no Splinter Cell. It probably would be in their top 10. Forte, what is going on, brother? Jez, if you had to just keep it to Xbox franchises, what would be your top 5? Gears, obviously, would probably be number 1, right?
That's tough. That is really tough, actually. Man. Well, can we count Wasteland now? Can we count Wasteland?
I don't know. Can you? I don't know.
Can we count Wasteland? I suppose, like, if we can't, I suppose we can't really count Wasteland and stuff like that. I mean, I love, like, Alan Wake and Quantum Break, but they're both dead. I mean, as far as being Xbox franchises goes, anyway. And then there's stuff like, obviously, Gears is right up there for me. I had a lot of fun with Age of Empires over the years, but again, it's like I say, I don't play RTS online because I'm not smart enough, frankly. So there's that. That is really tough. I'd have to spend more time thinking about that one, I think.
Okay, well, so you spend more time thinking about it. Trey Duke says, if Sekiro ever gets sequels, it could take over Halo. Sorry, not sorry. I mean, it's your opinion. It's whatever you feel. Sin Vendetta says, nope, you're both wrong. Mass Effect 1 is the best Mass Effect. Y'all need to stop lying to yourselves. No, Sin, you need to stop lying to yourself. When you're talking about 2007 Mass Effect, you're talking about a game that does not play very well. Everybody overlooked how awful the gameplay was simply because of how great the story was and how amazing the dialogue was. You are wrong, Sin, not us. Alvin says, until I can put 900 hours into Mass Effect 2 multiplayer, then Mass Effect 3 remains the king. I love the podcast. Thank you. Trey Duke says, Rand, how much progress have you made on getting Phil to greenlight Jet Set Radio Future remake? I made zero progress on that. I'm sorry. Yeah, so that's it for the super chats. Thank you guys for all the support. It's very interesting reading everybody's top franchises. I mean, if you're to just keep it to Xbox, still Halo, definitely Gears of War, probably Forza Horizon. And what would be after that? I mean, you got your Halo, Gears, and Forza, but what is after Halo, Gears, and Forza? But hey, is Doom an Xbox franchise now, Jez? Is Dishonored an Xbox franchise? Can we count those as such? You know, if
it's getting blurry, isn't it? The lines are getting blurry. I mean, if we can count Xbox franchise, Dishonored is an Xbox franchise, hell yeah, and Prey and stuff like that. It is weird. But you know, I'll think more about it. You know, it's that's a hard one. Like pure Xbox franchises, that's a hard one because I missed a lot of these, a lot of the classic ones, like you know, that people associate with Xbox, like Perfect Dark and stuff like that. I completely missed a lot of those games because it was during my early 20s. I only played World of Warcraft. I didn't play anything else.
Yeah.
So I missed a lot of these classic games, which I really regret. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Halo,
man.
Halo, Gears, Ori, Forza, Fable will probably be top 5 for me. For sure. Rubber Knob says Fable, Halo, Gotham Racing, Division 2, and Mortal Kombat. And Trey Duke says, hey, HK Gaming, send me your address since you want to disrespect Sekiro like that. No disrespecting Sekiro. It's the best game From Software has ever made. And definitely better than those Dark Souls games and the Demon Souls games. But anyways, I thought the top franchise thing was kind of fun. So the reason I brought it up, obviously Mass Effect legendary franchise, but so is Resident Evil, because I was thinking, man, where would Resident Evil sit in the pantheon of top franchises? Because, man, there's been a ton of them, and they've changed over the years. They go from third person, tank controls, you know, static cameras, to remakes where it's fully 3D, to then switching to the first person perspective. It's kind of crazy, and a lot of the Resident Evil games are highly rated. So I finished up Resident Evil Village, Jez. I didn't get to play it last week. You talked about it. You loved it. I think it's currently what you said right now, your game of the year 2021.
Yeah, so far, Resident Evil Village is definitely my favorite game that I've played this year so far. But dude, it's interesting. I don't know if we talked about this last week, but I think I talked to someone about this, about how the older a franchise gets, the harder it is to maintain momentum.
It is. That's true.
You have to. Someone who works at a AAA game dev was talking to me about this recently, and I thought it was a really important point that more people should think about. Is that the older a franchise gets, the harder it becomes to maintain. You have to appease the expectations of your fan base, but you also have to evolve the franchise and find fresh new ways to build the game. And I think like not many franchises have pulled this off well. Like obviously Fallout went from being 2D isometric RPG to being a full-blown 3D RPG on the Creation Engine. Like, but then you could argue that's a bit different because it's kind of like the leap from 2D to 3D. But for Resident Evil is an amazing test case because they have sort of revitalized and refreshed the franchise in a huge way by having the guts to change the gameplay perspective. It went from being like you say, third person, fixed cameras, tank controls, to being basically a first person shooter. Like Resident Evil 7 was quite slow and plodding. It still had that sort of survival horror, you know, feel. But like Resident Evil Village, Ethan's like, he moves way faster, he shoots more confidently, like playing with the knives is actually completely viable, you know, because Ethan's like more of a badass than he was in Resident Evil 7. So, and you know, I do like the fact that they mentioned that in the intro, where it's like, what was all that military training for, Chris? Like, because they knew people might pick up on that, so they had to add a story reason for it. But
he's definitely more of a character in Resident Evil 8. And at the beginning, his lines were a little bit cringy, but I actually really came around to liking Ethan by the end.
Yeah, I love him.
He was like
I
he
think
was
he's
a
one of my
nothing
favorite
he was a
characters.
nothing character in 7, to the point where you don't even see his face. You don't even know what he looks like. Of course, at the end of the game there is this like thing with the PC mod where you can detach the camera and you can see what he looks like. But I love Resident Evil 8. I don't like it as much as Resident Evil 7. So I think my issue why I think 7 is better is because I think I like that style of horror better, right? That dirty, dark, country style of horror, like more Saw-like, right? Actual horror where you're scared, rather than like this style of first-person horror, but it's more action-orientated. So if you're one of those people that's like, Resident Evil's too scary for me, I tried 7 and I just couldn't take it, then you might want to try Resident Evil 8 because there's less horror stuff and more actiony. And it's on the Series X. It's awesome because there's barely any loading. There's like some of the load screens are like a couple seconds, but you have this village you're in, and it's kind of like the central focus that you kind of come back to after going to the boss encounters. And I will say, I think the first 3/4 of the game, Jez, is impeccable. We're talking like 9.5 out of 10 when you're in the castle with Lady, what's her name? Like, I can never say her name. Lady Dimitrescu, or whatever her name is, right? The one that Dimitrescu, Lady Dimitrescu, and her daughters are the ones that everybody is literally horny for on Twitter, and.
Wow.
Like, that section is incredible. That is like pure Resident Evil. You're in a big castle. You're going around exploring, trying to figure out, like, how do I get to certain areas, figuring out the puzzles. Not too much combat, but it's the tension and the atmosphere is just dripping, and I loved it. And then you go to the dollhouse, which was, oh my god, the dollhouse was incredible. No spoilers, but like, there's essentially 4 lords when you start up the game, right? You have the big, tall, horny lady that everybody wants her to sit on. You have Heisenberg, who has, he's basically Magneto. He can control like metal and stuff. You have this like small doll, and you have this ugly looking fish dude. So you have these 4 lords, and there's basically the village is in the center, and you have the 4 lords, like, castles or places you need to go to do what you need to do. And I felt like first 2 places, like the original, like the village, when you start off the game, very much, I don't know if you felt this, Jez, but very much a homage to Resident Evil 4. Like the beginning, right? Where you're in a village and you're kind of getting attacked and you got to hold out. That reminded me so much of the beginning of Resident Evil 4. But I can't say, like, the game's great. I just think Resident Evil 7 is a bit better for me, simply because I like the horror aspect more, and I like that Saw style that they were going for in 7. But 8 is a little bit different from that. It's still incredible because I finished the game and then I immediately started a second playthrough. And this game does have a lot of replayability. They give you more guns, they give you more difficulties. You can get like infinite ammo if you want. I actually did on my second playthrough, I did a knife-only run without healing, without spending any money, and in under 3 hours, Jez. Ended up beating the game in like 2.5 hours or whatever.
That's wild.
Didn't get the knife achievement for whatever reason.
Dude, you does that include bosses?
Yeah, you can only use the knife. Yeah.
How the hell do you kill? I won't spoil it, but I can't get my head around how you kill some of those bosses with a knife, but whatever. Anyway, it's yeah, I agree with you that like I like them both for different reasons. I do like the Resident Evil 7 style, more sort of consistent horror experience where you're afraid of what's around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Like I always, when Resident Evil 7, I always think about the morgue area beneath the house, like with the mold up the walls and stuff, and you don't know if something's going to jump out of the mold. Like, and every time you have to go back there like 2-3 times throughout the game, and every time you go back there, you just don't know what's going to be in that basement. I hate that basement section. But I like that atmosphere too. Like I like that style of Resident Evil. But I also like the style of Resident Evil that we got with Village. I like the sort of. I don't like it when it goes too far into action. I think Resident Evil 5 took it too far into action, but I do like the sort of atmospheric horror that can still lean into those scarier segments. Like there's some parts in the castle that were pretty scary. Like
Well,
that had its own basement too. That was
the
super dark.
castle, the castle segment is amazing.
Yeah, it
And
really is amazing.
then the doll house thing is incredible as well. Like those two were probably like, if you're just talking about the beginning and those two areas, you're probably talking like 9.5 out of 10. Like everything I wanted from Resident Evil, you know what I mean? And then it kind of, the end kind of just started to go down a little bit. But someone asked in chat if ammo was plentiful and stuff, and I did feel I had a lot more ammo than I normally would on a Resident Evil playthrough because it's more action oriented. They tend to give you more ammo. You have a whole bunch of different weapons, and they actually allow you to craft ammo as well, which I don't think you could do in 7. Like you pick up like herbs and chem fluid and scraps, and you can actually craft ammo for different weapons. I'm trying to think if that was in Resident Evil 7 or not.
I do think you could, maybe.
It's been a while. It's been 4 years since I played 7, but yeah, I mean, I had a ton of pistol ammo, a ton of shotgun ammo, a ton of sniper ammo. So I always kind of. There was only one time where I like was really low on ammo, but for the most of the game, I was just kind of like I was stocked. Because I wouldn't necessarily always use my pistol ammo. I like, if I came up to an enemy, I'd use my knife and I'd try to block. They have the little block thing, which really helps out. Chris says you can't craft ammo, just healing items. That's what I thought. But it's an incredible game, and I can't wait to see what they do with Resident Evil 9. And it definitely does. It seem like they're going to keep the first person perspective for the newer games. Like Resident Evil 9 will be first person, but then supposedly they're remaking Resident Evil 4, which will obviously be third person. Like the newer games, and considering how well it sold, over 3 million copies in like the first weekend, that it definitely seems like people want Resident Evil to be first person.
Yeah, I think they'll probably keep first person. I think they can still explore the classic perspective. Like if they do a full-blown remake of Resident Evil 4, which I do think they should do, and I think they should remake Resident Evil Code Veronica as well, I loved Code Veronica. I know it's controversial with some fans, but I thought Code Veronica was incredible. It's one of my favorites in the franchise. I think like if they do a full remake of Code Veronica and the full remake of Resident Evil 4, they can still keep that tradition alive as well. And also they've got the Resident Evil Revelations franchise, which they could up level. Like I don't know if you've ever played any of the Revelations games, but they ain't terrible. Like Resident Evil Revelations 2 was pretty decent, with okay-ish characters and stuff like that. I feel like Resident Evil Revelations could be a way to explore the classic gameplay formula while keeping the mainline franchise further in the first-person atmospheric horror shooter genre. But I don't know. I just hope that they keep the quality up because Resident Evil 5 and then Resident Evil 6, the series just dropped off a cliff for me. Even though I did play the hell out of Resident Evil 5 because that had some really great replayability as well. But it just wasn't. It just felt really contrived and uninspired. And Resident Evil 8 really did feel like a celebration of the franchise. Like it's like we say, generally it's more action oriented, but it did feel like there were a couple of moments in the game where they're like, we can still do scary if we want to. The dollhouse specifically was terrifying and might be the scariest segment in the whole franchise. But but at the same time, it was like you had the Resident Evil 4 stuff, you had the vendor, the Duke. The Duke's an awesome character too. Like I really love the Duke, and obviously the shooting from 7, and then there was throwbacks to they tied 7 the 7 and 8 story to the wider canon, and Chris was there, obviously, and there's just so much cool stuff in the game. I just loved it, and I thought it was like a great way to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the franchise in a way that sort of pays homage to all the best aspects of the franchise while also doing something new. Like it didn't feel like how a lot of people kind of felt like Star Wars Episode 7 was just kind of like a rip-off of Star Wars Episode 4, right?
Right,
Do you remember
yeah.
that whole thing? I felt like if you were looking at Resident Evil Village from sort of like a superficial perspective, you could sort of think like, oh well, they've just remade 4 basically. But it felt like they took what 4 did well and then elevated it and added new stuff to it. It didn't feel like they were just retreading new ground. So I thought it was, and like you, I did feel like there are some story quirks with it. It's Resident Evil after all, and there are some bits towards the end where the pacing gets a bit weird and it does go a bit off the rails. But that's also kind of like, well, it's Resident Evil at the end of the day. So which is why I deducted some points because I was just like, oh man, you guys are doing so well. And then a bunch of weird stuff happens, but it didn't ruin it. Like I didn't come away from Resident Evil Village with a sour taste in my mouth like after completing Final Fantasy VII Remake. When I completed Final Fantasy VII Remake, I was kind of like, really? But yeah, I just loved it, man. I'm really excited for the future of the franchise and all that good stuff. Man, we talked about that for a long time.
Yeah. Hey, it's what happens when you play video games. I'd rather talk about the good things. And Resident Evil, Mass Effect are some of the best, right? JC says Resident Evil 4 Remake is coming Oculus Quest 2. Uber Square says, for my first ever super chat, Rand, please make Jez say Final Fantasy, what is that, 15 is the best Final Fantasy game and the combat is good. I think that's 15, he says.
XV?
Yeah,
No,
XV.
I refuse.
Yeah, XV.
Like, so, some people have been trying to tell me that Final Fantasy 15 has improved with the DLC and the updates they've done. So I might go back and revisit at one point, but there's just so much stuff to play right now. I just kind of like, can I fit this in?
Yeah,
I
that's
still
true.
want to do my second Resident Evil playthrough, and I got like 3 Mass Effect games to get through, and my God, there's a lot of stuff.
Sleepy Goblin says, thanks for the headset suggestion, Rand. I finally got Mass Effect to load up. I'd even tried a system reset. I wonder how many people are having that issue and have no clue it's simply the headset and to start a game within the launcher and then just continue. There's got to be a ton of people who aren't on Twitter, who don't listen to YouTube, who don't watch these podcasts, right, that don't know that's a problem.
Well, dude, like the top article of the day on Windows Central is your Mass Effect Legendary Edition crashing? This might be the cause, which I sneakily wrote yesterday because I knew that I would get some traffic today. But yeah, that's the top article on Windows Central. So a lot of people are experiencing this, and hopefully that patch it out soon. But it sounds like it might be a Microsoft problem, not an EA BioWare problem.
Yeah.
So we'll have to wait and see, pal.
John G says Fable, Halo, Gears, Forza, and Fusion Frenzy for his top 5. And Red Cloud Gamer, Gears, Halo, Ori, Forza Horizon, Project Gotham would add Lost Odyssey if it gotten a sequel. I know a lot of people really want Lost Odyssey to get a sequel. So, that's the games played. And now we're on to the topics. And what do you want to talk about first, Jez? Because we have a bunch of things here to talk about. You want to talk about, someone had mentioned this earlier in chat, you want to talk about Omen from Arcane, supposedly?
Yeah, let's talk about Omen.
So Omen supposedly is a new game from Arcane Austin, I believe, right? Because Arcane Leon is currently making Deathloop, correct? If I'm not mistaken, do I have those studios mixed up?
No, you don't.
Okay.
That is correct.
I did see that some of the previews for Deathloop are going to be hitting soon. Sounds like it's going to be good, and I'm like, well, of course it's going to be good. It's an Xbox studio, right? Oh man, I can't wait to play Deathloop. So, you know anything about this Project Omen from Arcane? Supposedly going to be revealed at this year's E3 with a launch sometime next year. New IP, maybe vampire related, kind of.
I started hearing about Omen and vampire game from Arcane a few weeks ago, but I think like a lot of where this information has come from probably all came from the same place. I haven't been able to cross-reference this information against any other source, and I don't have any documents. So it's one of those rumors that I would take with a heavy pinch of salt. But at the same time, there's so many people talking about it that I kind of also err towards there's no smoke without fire, right? So all I've heard is basically what you've heard, and which is that there's a new IP. It's called Project Omen. The game might be called Omen. It's about vampires and it's arcane, and it could be revealed this year. I don't know anything more about it. I don't have any hard evidence to back that up. It's just what's sort of been going around on the rumor mill. So take that what you will. But for me, Rand, I love Dishonored. I love Arcane. I love the games they make. Immersive sims are awesome. There isn't really a great vampire game on the market right now. Vampire didn't really hit the mark for me, although I did quite enjoy it for a little while, and it had some really cool ideas. But there was a bunch of issues, including the bloody frame rate, which was awful on Xbox. But I do long for a high quality vampire game, and Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 is delayed to hell, development hell, whatever. And I think Arcane could be the ones to pull it off, because, man, we really need to get vampirism away from the Twilight era and bring it back to where it should be, which is the Blade era, Bram Stoker's Dracula era, you know? Vampires are supposed to be badass, man. They're not supposed to sparkle. Although I did watch all the Twilight movies, and actually,
of course you did. Did you do it because you wanted to, or did you do it because your girlfriend made you do it?
My girlfriend made me do them, and I went in I went in with the mindset of I'm gonna watch this for the lols. But honestly, they weren't that bad. I thought they were pretty good, actually.
I mean, I've never seen the Twilight films, so I can't back you up on this one, Jez. You're out here on your own on this island. You're on your own.
I didn't think. I just thought everyone says how bad they are, and I didn't think they were that bad. I thought actually they're all right. I was entertained. There are some really dumb lines in the movie which were hilarious, but you know, I didn't think they were terrible. I remember thinking, like, if I was like Bill, an emo teenager, I'd probably absolutely adore this. So, you know, I didn't think they were that bad. Yet still, come on, Blade. I love the
Blade. Is great. Blade is great. I'll give you that. Blade is pretty cool, and I don't think they ever made a video game out of that. So, like, first off, I'll play anything Arcane makes. I love Arcane, right? Dishonored series is fantastic. Prey was amazing. They just added 60 FPS boost to Dishonored 1 and Death of the Outsider. Like, when I look at Microsoft buying Bethesda, the studio I was most excited for them to get is Arcane, because they make these great experiences that a lot of people don't like play because for whatever different reasons. But now they don't necessarily need to worry about that. They're going to live on Game Pass. More people can enjoy the genius that Arcane makes. So if their game's Dishonored 3 or Prey 2, I'd be happy. But there's always something like super exciting about a new IP, right? And this kind of is going to tie into, you know, the big talking point of the whole podcast, where Xbox is essentially teasing mind-blowing new IPs, and people will be like, oh, wait a minute, clickbait, blah, 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 you know, you always use these words in your videos and stuff like that, but it's like, hey, I didn't make this up, you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't come out here and say that Xbox has games that are going to blow your mind, right? Xbox has literally come out and said that. So, basically, the quote is from Ben Decker, who is the head of like gaming services at Xbox. He was giving a interview to Games Radar talking about Xbox Game Pass and all the different kind of data they collect from it. And the quote he basically said is, that's why we made the investments that we have. We have 23 studios across Xbox and Bethesda working on Halo working on Halo, Forza, and Fallout. Now, it's pretty interesting that he says Fallout, right? Like, they're working on Halo, Forza, and Fallout. We know Halo Infinite's coming this year. Forza Horizon 5 is probably coming this year. Is someone working on Fallout that's not Bethesda, Jez? Is that just kind of a slip of the tongue? Freudian slip? Could In Exile maybe be working? We'll talk about that a little bit, but... So he says, we have 23 studios across Xbox and Bethesda working on Halo, Forza, Fallout, and new IP that we haven't even talked about yet that's going to blow your mind. And we can deliver all of that into Game Pass on day one. So, what is your first takeaway from that? Like, when you hear that quote from this Xbox executive about mind-blowing new IP from Xbox. You think they're setting themselves up for disappointment? You think people see that and now they're going to be thinking like, oh, what game specifically is he talking about? Is it a collection of stuff? Like what's your take on it all?
Well, I do think it's a bit naive to make that comment that mind-blowing new IP, teasing it and stuff like that. He probably didn't want it to become a headline.
Yeah, then you shouldn't have said it then.
Yeah, exactly. It's probably that's what I say. It's a bit naive, right? So it is what it is at one point, but at the same time, like I say, I've seen the design brief for the dragon emoji game, Project Dragon, and the typhoon emoji game, Project Typhoon. And honestly, if those games hit their design briefs as I understand them, I would be happy to describe them as mind-blowing. However, hitting the design brief and, hyping it up are two different things, It's why I'm, remiss to say if I was a YouTuber, right, I might write a headline like, if I was a YouTuber and I was writing about Project Dragon, I might put a headline like, Xbox making mind-blowing exclusive with IO Interactive, right? And I'd put that out there, but because I sort of like, I put my real name on my articles, I kind of want to, limit the expectation a bit, because I have no idea if they're going to hit the design brief. I have no idea if that game's going to slip into development hell. I have no idea if it could even be cancelled, Look at Scalebound, and I always bring up the Surface Mini, So sort of, you have to take those sort of comments with a grain of salt. Obviously, Microsoft is not going to say, we have some mediocre projects in development. Obviously, they're going to say they're mind-blowing. But also, one person's definition of mind-blowing is vastly different to someone else's. I thought Cyberpunk was mind-blowing, and I still do. But that's not a very popular opinion to have these days, So often with people who actually never played the game. But anyway, I digress.
Wait. Say that a little bit louder. Say that. What?
What?
You're saying people hating on Cyberpunk and they didn't even play the game?
Yeah, it's weird that. But anyway, got a bit of a cough there, Rand. But it's what I'm saying is essentially one person's definition of mind-blowing is very different to another person's definition of mind-blowing. And oftentimes Microsoft has a different idea of what the core gaming community might find mind-blowing with what they find mind-blowing. So I would take it with a pinch of salt. I think there are going to be awesome games coming, but again, it's sort of like I wouldn't have put that out there at a point where Xbox has so much to prove. They have so much to prove. So, I would like, put a pin in that, I guess.
So you think he got in trouble? You think he said that in an interview and it was just like he was really excited talking about the stuff that he knows about, and now it's a headline for articles and YouTube videos because it's literally words he said, and he basically goes back to Xbox, and now there's unrealistic expectations for some of these titles because now you're sitting there thinking like, when is this new IP gonna blow your mind, right? Sort of thing. I don't know, like Xbox has a ton of games in development, right? I was thinking, what about Kojima's game, Jez?
Yeah, I mean,
you look at like Kojima and you look at like Death Stranding, the hype that game had, and when that game originally came out, like all the people that called it like one of the greatest games ever made, and it was just misunderstood by the people that gave it 4 out of 10s and 6 out of 10s because oh, they didn't get the true masterpiece, the true genius behind Kojima. You know, like, it's not just a walking simulator where you're delivering packages, it's so much more than that. Or you remember how excited people were for his take on Silent Hill when they finished the PT demo and they saw that, short cutscene, short announcement trailer for Silent Hills. And, like, it just kind of seems that with Kojima and his projects, you know, I don't know if maybe mind-blowing is the right term, but, like, hype is usually, those things go hand in hand. So, like, when he said that, that's something that, you know, I immediately thought of. I immediately thought of Project Dragon that you had talked about, and about how it's really ambitious, and if they can hit all that stuff, especially from a studio that's known for Hitman, working on a high fantasy Diablo-style RPG, you know what I mean? Like, that would definitely be something. And then you even have, like, Project Omen from Arcane. You have ZeniMax Online working on a new AAA IP. Mr. Matty Plays says that he knows an Xbox studio is working on a Star Wars game. You know, would that be necessarily mind-blowing? But Justy Spud says, game journalists are probably watching your stream now. Say hello to Rand. Yeah, somebody's probably watching just to get juicy little clickbait headlines so they can write their articles about, right? You know what I mean? So I mean, like, there's ton of projects at the work. Just like how Sony came out recently, and I'm sure you saw this, Jez, where they came out and they said they have 25 projects in development, and like half of them are essentially Xbox, or half of them are new IP. Do you think a similar number of games are in the works at Xbox? You know, they got more studios, so potentially there are more games in the works and as many new IPs. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think there's as many new IPs, and I think Microsoft has as many games, if not more games, honestly. They just have, if you're including Bethesda, there's just a ridiculous amount of studios we're talking about here. And they're not just sitting on their hands. And also, I keep learning about new second-party projects that are being explored as well. And then some of them might not pan out. Sure. But, like, they're constantly looking to do that. It's the Netflix model. As you said earlier before the call, it's the Netflix model. They need constant content, right? So, of course, they're trying to make new games, and of course, they're trying to make new IP. But I guess at the same time, they don't want to brag because, like I said earlier, they're in a position where they got something to prove right now. So I would personally think that maybe they're going to wait to E3 showing gameplay before they start blowing their whistle or whatever. Because, like I say, the fact that we were talking about that guy's comments about the game being mind-blowing after Microsoft has had, a relative drought of high-quality AAA exclusives over the years, it kind of makes your eyes roll, Stop telling me about it and show me. Prove it that you have mind-blowing games in development. I don't want to hear it. I want to see it. Pal, mate, buddy. I'm not your buddy, guy.
Is that why you think a lot of people are also?
Guy, friend. Sorry. Oh man, I'm in a strange mood today.
Have you been drinking today?
No, I haven't. I just slept properly. Rand. That's why, I have some energy. I have some energy to burn, and also I've done no exercise this week, so I've got energy to burn.
Right. Okay. Chinook Guy says, will Xbox continue doing that thing where they say they have 100 trailers that are just multi-platform games? I remember them doing that each year. I mean, they do say, like, at E3, they'd be like, we're going to show more games than we've ever showed before. And obviously some of those are going to be multi-platform titles. I mean, it happens all the time, right? There is this, I think there's a lot of people that are just kind of sick of talking about games instead of actually seeing the games. Like, rumors always pop up about, hey, we got Project Omen, right? Hey, there's a Kojima thing. and Xbox is working on this or that. But there's definitely, and I'll see it in my comments sometime, and people that talk to me that like are basically sick of the talk of new games coming instead of like, hey, you know what, that's great and all, but I want to play some of these games now. So you're kind of at that point where you're like, yeah, you know what, you can come out and you can say they're mind blowing, and I believe you, but like it's time to put up and or shut up essentially. Like I'm kind of getting sick of all these rumors and all this new stuff that it's just like just show me what you got and let the games speak for themselves.
Yes. Let the games speak. Let them sing from the mountaintops with their beautiful harmonies
Let
and
them sing from the
4K resolutions.
Hey man, I would love a mind-blowing new IP from Xbox. I love new IP. It's like I know a lot of people, you know, when you talk about Xbox franchises like the Forzas or the Halos or the Gears, but all those games were new IP at one point, right? They were fresh, they were interesting, they were exciting, and you know, like every franchise out there starts out as a new IP, and if Xbox can deliver a ton of that this generation, people are going to be happy. And I'm sure, you know, like I'm trying to think of an unannounced game from Xbox that will blow people's minds. I mean, there's some I can like think of, but I'm not sure. See, the problem is it's not. There are games out there that are going to be really good, but they won't blow everybody's minds. So like, someone might say, "Well, yeah, that was something incredibly awesome." But then somebody else will be like, well, that game sucked. So you're never going to be able to, you know, you're never going to be able to basically make everybody happy all the time, right?
Yeah, it's tough, man, and they're still coming out of this whole sort of weird no budget thing from the last gen, growing studios, integrated them, and all this sort of stuff. There's Microsoft's a huge behemoth that takes like years to turn around into another direction. You know, but once they get there, you know, it's like a steam train, right? You can't stop it. So I do hope we get into that phase, and we're gonna. I mean, I feel like I said this last year and the year before, frankly, but I do hope we start seeing something soon because I'm starting to get like a bit triggered. I don't want to see any CGI, man. Don't want to see any CGI.
So that goes with this question that Giles says in Super Chat. Just quickly wanted to drop a question before I get back to work. What do you guys expect from Xbox and Bethesda at E3? Thanks for the great content. So you basically just said right from there, you don't want to see any more CGI. Is that
No.
your... So if Xbox comes out and they have a showing and it's all gameplay, whether it's gameplay demos or just trailers with gameplay mixed in, but there's no CGI, you would say that's a damn good show, and that's exactly what you wanted, right?
I mean, I think we talked about this before, and I think you said it, where it's like CGI is cool to announce a franchise and get an idea of what we're sort of looking at and tease it, like the Avowed CGI trailer. I didn't mind that. So I think like if it's a new IP and you want to mix that in, I ain't got anything against that. But like, if you show me like a CGI trailer for a game we already know about, like don't show me a CGI trailer of Halo Infinite. Show me gameplay. Don't show me a CGI trailer of, I don't know, Perfect Dark again, because we've already seen a CGI trailer. Show us some gameplay demos. Get on stage like Todd Howard and walk us through it, man. I love the way Todd Howard shows off games, you know. And I love that they have these sort of super interesting deep dive presentations where their games are often really big and grand and complicated, so they often warrant it. But like, I love that style. Like, I love the 15-minute long deep dive into what you can do with Todd Howard's heavenly voice, explaining it to me, like, you know, whispering sweet nothings into my ear. Tell me lies, Todd. Tell me lies. You know? But I love that stuff. So I think like having a good mix is the ideal scenario. If they're announcing a new IP, CGI, whatever. But if it's an existing game that we know about, show me gameplay. Give me reasons to be excited about the future of the platform, you know? Don't let third parties do all the heavy lifting. You know, we know the third parties are coming. We'll watch their shows for that. But I really want to see Xbox put a mark on, you know, what we can expect and really get people excited, because they are seeing some serious momentum. We got some serious momentum from Xbox recently. They, especially with the chip shortage, because the Xbox Series S is probably easier to manufacture with the chip shortage that's going on right now, which gives them a market share advantage against PlayStation. We saw this week a report from GameIndustry.biz that said PlayStation 5 has actually slipped to third, and Xbox is second, and Nintendo Switch is first in the UK hardware sales charts, purely because the PlayStation 5 they're having trouble with the silicon, getting the silicon out there because of the whole semiconductor shortage, which Intel said is going to last for 2 more years. So that's rough. But unlike PlayStation, Microsoft's going hard on this whole cloud thing. So you won't have difficulty accessing some of these games. All those games are coming on PC day one as well. They're also going to be on Game Pass. They're also going to be in Xbox Series S. And it's going to be super, super easy to access all of this content. We just need to see the content. We just need to know why we should be invested in this ecosystem. And that's what E3 is all about for me. Show me why I'm investing in this ecosystem. And
hey, I just want to see games, man. I just want to see new experiences. I want to see what do I expect? I expect Halo Infinite. I expect it to have a good showing. I expected them to announce the release date, whether it's September or November. You can make a case for either, okay, Halo Infinite coming out November 15th, 2021, the 20th anniversary, marketing rights itself. But then you can make a case for saying, well, if it comes out in September, it gets the jump before all the other big games. Then you could have a big content release drop around November 15th, around the anniversary, have a second kick of marketing, drop Halo anniversary stuff, and do it that way. So I expect a lot of Halo Infinite. I expect Forza Horizon 5 to get announced and shown off. I think they're going to do a deep dive into Starfield, because we still don't really know how Bethesda is going to be structured within the E3 showcase. Is it is this going to be Xbox Game Studios and partnerships and third parties? And then, okay, now it's Bethesda, or is it going to be a section within the show where it's okay, the first 30 minutes is Xbox, but now the next 30 minutes is Bethesda, and then we're going to end with more Xbox stuff. We don't know how that's going to happen yet, but I'm expecting Starfield finally to be revealed to see what that game is actually like. I'm expecting announcements from Machine Games and Arcane, their new IP, Machine Games with Wolfenstein 3. Who else? I don't know any, maybe there's some other announcements, but, and I still think, I know last year there was a little bit light on third parties, especially big third parties, but, I wouldn't be surprised if Far Cry 6 was there and we saw gameplay for the first time, and, Battlefield, which we'll talk about in a minute, it's possible that maybe Battlefield's at Xbox as well, because they sort of moved the release from May to June, or at least the reveal trailer. So
yeah,
there's going to be a lot. I mean, just adding Bethesda, which was a whole separate event, a publisher thing unto itself into Xbox, is that's a lot of content there. And yeah, there aren't going to be some games that show up. I'm not expecting to see Fable. I'm not expecting to see Perfect Dark. I really want to see Hellblade 2. I hope it makes it, but who knows if it does? If that game's 2023 or whatever, maybe it's not there. Same thing with Everwild. Hopefully Avowed shows up, and I think it will. So it's just one of those things where I know people get antsy. Xbox hasn't released much this year, and we don't know much that's coming out the rest of this year. We only know Psychonauts 2 and Halo Infinite and Flight Sim. So I know people are I want to see gameplay of these, games that you've announced. I want to see what your 23 studios are working on. Show me the roadmap. What am I going to be playing this year, and what am I going to be playing next year? You don't necessarily have to go to 2023 and beyond, but I want to know what the immediate future is for Xbox Game Studios and Game Pass. If you can make some cool Game Pass announcements, Persona coming to Xbox, or more Sega games or something to get people excited. I think that's what people want. They just want to see it. They want to know. They want to see stuff dated. Okay, Avowed. I know what that game is. I see the gameplay. There's a trailer that says 2022. I'm good. Here's Halo. Here's Forza. Here's Starfield. That's what people. I mean, I'm assuming that's what people want, because that's what I want. You know what I mean? So, That's my take on that all. Sherman Jacobs says, off topic, any new studio announcements at E3? That's always a big one that gets brought up, Jez. Studio announcements at E3. I mean, those are always kind of hit or miss. Like, I don't know if you saw recently, Dontnod came out and said that they fielded a bunch of buyout offers that they turned down. I believe one of those were from Microsoft. I think Microsoft wanted to purchase them. But
yeah, I imagine I did.
Yeah, but like with anything, these things fall apart or whatever. But I don't know. I don't know if expecting one is like, that's the problem with like expecting something to happen, because then if it doesn't happen, you're disappointed. So I would say just go in with the expectations that there aren't going to be any studio announcements, and if there is, hey, it's a pleasant surprise, because who knows how all this stuff is going to play out. I know a lot of people will say, well, what Phil and Satya said about always looking for new studios, which is true, but they just completed the Bethesda deal, and that's a lot of work getting them integrated. I don't really think they want to give Matt Booty more teams to run, because he's already running 15. So I would say just expect this year's E3 to be about Game Pass, Xbox Game Studios, Bethesda, some new titles, some gameplay, and not necessarily about here's another 2 studios we purchase. What do you think, Jez?
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if they're gonna I think if they do buy studios from now on, it's either gonna be another massive blockbuster publisher purchase, which can basically be semi-integrated and autonomous, similar to what they're doing with Bethesda and what they did with Mojang, or they're going to be like very small studios that aren't sort of going to be logistically challenging to integrate. I don't see sort of some of these big-ish studio acquisitions like in Exile or whatever anytime soon, but I could be wrong. You just don't know a lot of this stuff, whether it's happening or not. So we just have to sort of wait and see on a lot of that stuff. But I don't know. I think it's good practice to temper your expectations for E3, because we know there is a chip shortage right now, and there's an argument to be made that maybe it would be better. Maybe,
Jez, can you speak? You tripping over your words?
Myself here. I'm tripping over my words. Maybe it would be better to wait to blow your load, so to speak, when you've actually got stock to sell. So maybe like when the chip shortage is winding down a bit and you have to convince consumers to come into your ecosystem, because right now they don't have to convince anyone. The stock is not meeting demand. So they don't have to work as hard to market this stuff right now. However, you also still want to set your narratives for the future. So there's a potential argument to be made for both ways, So people say, put your teeth back in, Jez. Oh, I love it. But it's marketing's complicated, and that's what E3 is at the end of the day. It's marketing. It's get the fans hyped, get them spreading the word and stuff like that. You don't want to have a bad E3, but maybe like you save some of your heavy hitters for when you can make maximum impact, right? But I'm a high school dropout. I definitely do not have a marketing degree, so I could be completely wrong, but that's just like how I see it with my sort of limited perspective. But...
I mean, yeah. Okay. Swan says, keep up the good work, guys. Can't wait to start Mass Effect again. Kyle B says, if Starfield is pushed to 2022, do you still think we get a Todd deep dive or just a trailer at E3? That's something interesting. Like, it could be just a trailer, but I mean, if it's coming out this year, I think they'll deep dive. But they could still deep dive Starfield, even if it is coming out in March of next year. I guess it really just depends on how much time they're going to go and how much things they want to show. John says, do you think some devs are scared to show gameplay because gameplay most of the time just doesn't look as good as people expect? There is some of that, and there's always the comparisons that people make when you show off gameplay for the first time and then the game actually comes out. You always see it's been downgraded, right? It happened with Watch Dogs. It happens with a whole bunch of different games. I think a lot of devs don't like that because it's inherently negative. But I think gamers just want to know what the game's going to look and play like. You don't really get any of that from a CGI trailer, which I'm fine with the CGI trailer for your first time showing something off. But like a second time, I better see some gameplay. You know what I mean? At least that's how I look at it. Like, if you want to show me something that's 2 years away, 3 years away, and you do it with CGI, cool. But the second time you show it to me, it better be gameplay. Because it's really hard to get super excited off of just CGI stuff.
Yeah, I think like a lot of some of these other games too, like your Forza and your Flight Simulator, like they do sell well, and they are popular, obviously, and they are great games, but they don't like have characters and they don't have like a story. So people don't form the same sort of emotional connection with them potentially that they might do with like your Halos and your Cortanas and your Dom and your Marcus Phoenix and stuff like that. So because they don't have characters, I don't think they provoke the same emotional response. So while there's definitely like there's obviously those fit into the ecosystem because they are very popular and they make a lot of money. At the same time, it's kind of like I understand why some people are just like, oh, it's only Forza or oh, it's only Flight Simulators because you want to have those big emotional set piece moments, right? You want to have like games that sort of make you think and challenge you and, characters that you can love and escape into and stuff like that. I don't know. So I think that there just has to be a good balance. And that's kind of like, if we're still thinking about it in terms of the Netflix content model, it's sort of you got to have a little bit of something for everyone, I think.
Yeah.
And hopefully they hit that because we have talked about in the past about how some of their genre areas are kind of weak. I don't think there's not a great exclusive hook for kids right now. And you could make the argument that exclusive games for kids ain't going to sell systems necessarily because kids have grown up in the era where you can play Fortnite on your mobile phone, and the whole idea of buying a console for an exclusive probably alien to a lot of people. Minecraft is on everything, obviously, but I do think there needs to be some kind of, a bigger effort to make kids games for Xbox, looking at it analytically. And, we talk about stuff like that sometimes, but I don't know. I just want a decent show. I don't care. I don't need to have my mind blown. I don't need to believe the game's the second coming. I just sort of, if there's just a decent spread of games I can be excited about and look forward to, I'll be relatively happy. I would like to be mind blown, but I realize as gamers get older, more jaded, that becomes increasingly difficult to do.
I mean,
So
you weren't wrong. You weren't wrong there. I mean, I still get really excited about stuff, but I mean, I guess maybe I never grew up. I don't know. I just love video games, so it's just like I just want to be excited about stuff. Shout out to my man Punkadish. He says much love for Rand and Jez. Love what you guys do. Thank you, Punk. And Chinook Guy says, I just want Jet Set Radio Future to come back. I love that game. There was some. Did you see some of the Sega financials where they talked about utilizing older IP and bringing them back and stuff like that, and the creation of a super game and stuff like that? I don't know what any of that stuff really means, but
I did see a bit of it.
Yeah. Coalition, right? Speaking of new IPs that might blow your mind, they made a blog post on Monday, basically telling everybody that they're gonna be quiet for a bit because they are moving production. Are moving their efforts from Unreal Engine 4 upgrading to Unreal Engine 5, and that they need to kind of work through it, and they have multiple new projects in the works, which was the big headline a lot of people took. It's very interesting to see Windows Central Gaming's, because I did see someone do a comparison tweet, whereas Windows Central Gaming was like, Coalition is moving from Unreal Engine 5 and they have new projects in the work, and like comicbook.com's headline was, Gear 6 ain't coming out for a while, right? You can definitely tell what angles certain places are going for with that. Where
Yes.
I think I've said I wasn't expecting Gears 6 until 2023, and it definitely sounds like it's probably 2024 or even later. But the big takeaway from it was they're working on multiple projects, right? They shot down the Star Wars rumor, which they probably didn't want to spread because they're not working on Star Wars. Jeff Grubb has said that the new project they're working on is some sort of like new IP potentially. Basically, they're going to be using that to get familiar with Unreal Engine 5, which is exciting. It's smaller but more experimental in nature, and I would love to see that actually come out. I know some people are thinking that maybe that's set in the Gears universe, but I hope it's not. I hope it's something new. And then they'll go back to Gear 6. Now, however, Jez, I remember when Unreal Engine 5 was originally announced, and they said it would be a seamless transition. Does this sound like it's a seamless transition to you? Or does this sound like we need to... it's like, because I could have sworn when Epic first announced the stuff, they're like, yeah, it's super seamless and all that stuff, but then Coalition's like, yeah, we're switching pipelines. We're going to Unreal Engine 5. We're not going to announce any new games for a long time. And I'm just like, this doesn't sound as seamless as you're saying. But what do you think about them switching to Unreal Engine 5? And are you excited for a new project potentially from them that isn't based in the Gears universe?
Well, one of the reasons why I want to learn game dev, and I've kind of dropped off of it the last 2 weeks, so I've been so busy. But one of the reasons I want to learn game dev is because I want to understand some of these challenges a bit better. I don't understand how complicated it is to move from one engine to another, blah, blah, blah. But I do know that one of the games I was working on no longer worked after I updated Unity. So I don't think it's as seamless, perhaps, as the marketing would want you to believe. But I'm kind of like you, I do want to see Gears 6 and I do want it to be great, but I want it to step up to the next level. I don't just want another Gears game. I want to see it go to the next level, invest in it, invest more in it, take an extra year to really add more features and grow that franchise into something more interesting. And, and also if they want to do a new IP as well, that would be cool as well, because they are wizards with the Unreal Engine. There are a few devs who can do such amazing things with that engine as the Coalition, and a lot of them used to work at Epic, so maybe that's part of it, but also I just want to quickly give a shout out to my cousin Mia, who is watching the podcast.
Ooh, hello Mia.
She's learning about mitochondria at school right now, so
that sounds boring. That's not as cool as learning about how to make a game like your cousin Jez is doing.
True. But Rand, did you know that mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell?
Yes, I did know that.
Okay, good. Well, anyway, slightly off track there, but yeah, I do want to see what the Coalition does next, and I just hope that I think I tweeted this, or I might have spoke about it on the podcast in the past, but I kind of would love to see what the Coalition did with the same kind of budget that 343 get. I know that 343. I know that Halo is the Mac Daddy and the most important franchise, quote unquote, and stuff like that. But man, I just constantly think about what Gears could be like if it had that kind of budget. So I don't know. Maybe I need to stop thinking about that because it'll probably never happen. But in any case, whatever they make next will probably be great, and I can't wait to see. I want to see.
Dude, Gears 5 was one of the best looking games of last gen. Gears Hivebusters, the Series X version that they basically gave away for free if you had Game Pass Ultimate. Now, I'm always checking myself to make sure I'm not muted. What have I done? Like, I'm always like scared that like as I'm talking, I accidentally muted myself, so now I'm constantly bringing up OBS to make sure that my mic is actually being heard. But
one thing I'm doing this podcast is I've actually.
Are you okay there? You almost sound like you almost died. What's going on?
Oh man, I've been coughing and clearing my throat, so I got a drink, and so I would not cough, but now I'm choking on the drink, so maybe it wasn't the greatest idea. But I have got the chat up, which I didn't have up last week, in case you mute yourself. But now I'm muting myself because I do have a cough. So I'm going to become the muted one this week. By forgetting to unmute at some point.
But I think a lot of people underappreciate what the Coalition does. Like, I think they're one of Xbox's better studios. Xbox has so heavily relied on the Coalition and Gears this past generation, and they've relied on Gears for so long. And I think people take that for granted. So when the fact that the Coalition comes out here and is like, listen, we're moving to Unreal Engine 6 and we're not going to announce something for a couple years, I think that says a couple things. One, how crazy good is Gears 6 or their next smaller experimental projects going to look like? Because Gears 5 Highbusters is one of the best looking games on current gen consoles, period. Like, it is ridiculously how good they can craft those visuals on Unreal. They're even, it almost seems like they're better at the Unreal Engine than Epic is, right? So I think of like, man, imagine what Gears 6 is going to look like in 2024, next gen only, when they get the handle down on it. But then also it speaks to the larger Microsoft, Xbox Game Studios and Bethesda, whereas like before all this, before Microsoft went on the spending spree and got all these studios, there's no way that they could have allowed the Coalition to basically go 2 years without announcing anything. If we were sticking to the old dev cycle, Gears 6 would be announced at this year's E3 and essentially come out next year, right? Because they're the workhorse of Xbox Game Studios. Let's face it. You know, like you can make an argument maybe Playground Studios before they got acquired, you know, they were always pumping out stuff every other year, but they relied heavily on the Coalition because they didn't really have a lot of other choices, a lot of other studios. Now it's like, okay, the Coalition can take the time they need, learn the engine, make a smaller experimental game, release that before or after, and then get back to Gears. So that speaks to like Microsoft's confidence in the studio and the other games that they do have from all these different studios to kind of fill in the gaps. And I think that's good for Gears, right? My man Hustle and Motivate, who loves Gears, is in the chat. He says, facts, the Coalition is Xbox's top franchise studio in his opinion. And I know a lot of people would agree with you. But one of the things that I always talk about with Gears is, you know, I like Gears. I don't necessarily love Gears. And I want to see the story, you know, come to its rightful conclusion. However, I think one of the issues I have personally is that I've never been given the chance to miss Gears, right? When you look at the release schedule of the Gears titles, it's Gears 1, 2006, Gears 2, 2008, Gears 3, 2011, Gears Judgment, 2013, Gears Ultimate, 2015, Gears 4, 2016, Gears, Gears 5, 2019, Gears Tactics, 2020, Gears Pop, right? So I sit there and I'm like, they've been releasing a new Gears game every couple years, and it's hard to miss Gears or anything when you're constantly getting it. And you look at it like, it's been the same since 2006. And I've kind of always said, like, Microsoft should put it on ice and come back to it later, so people could actually give a chance to actually miss the franchise. So if that's what's happening here, if Gears 6 doesn't come out till 2025 or something like 4 years from now, then I think a lot of people would be more welcoming, or at least actually miss Gears to the point where they're like, damn, it's good to see Gears back. Instead of what I would imagine, if they announced Gears 6 this year, people would be like, damn, another Gears? I just played this one. It's more like a frustration. You know what I'm saying? Like, instead of being excited for something, you're just more exasperated. Like, oh man, I just got done playing another Gears and now there's a new one. But instead, they can kind of, I don't know. Axel in chat says that's a BS argument. Why do you need to miss a franchise for it to be better? I'm not saying it'd be better. I'm just saying there's something to be said about waiting a certain amount of time and people getting tired of something because they're constantly getting it, right? I think that's one of the reasons why Grand Theft Auto is as popular and is such an event whenever it does happen, because you don't get Grand Theft Autos all the time. It's a rare event when a new Grand Theft Auto comes out. So when it does, people are super excited because they're finally getting their baby back. And I think that's how some people, I'm not saying everybody, clearly, you feel differently, but I kind of feel that, like, with these short dev cycles that the Coalition have been working on, it's kind of lowered my excitement level for Gears, because how much can you change in 2 years? But if you let the developer, work on it and not do anything for 4 or 5, when Gears 6 comes out, it might be vastly different in some manner. I don't know. I think it's exciting for me personally. It may not be for you. And Sass Shadows in chat says the Coalition are developing out Gears universe like a cinematic universe based on a singular planet for now. There are unlimited taps of negative space for storytelling that the Coalition have so much to tell. And they probably do, yeah. And I'm not expecting everybody to agree with me. I just personally haven't been that excited for Gears, and I think it's because it's just they've been constant for the last, I don't know, like decade and more. So I mean, like I said, difference of opinion, but that's kind of how I feel. I don't know. Jez, what do you think?
Make Gears first person.
Like Resident Evil? That'd be interesting.
Yeah, man. Can you imagine getting the chainsaw into a locust in first person? That would be pretty damn sick. Honestly, think like when you said like it hasn't changed since 2006, it's true. It's damn true. We got some slightly wider areas, but it's Gears 1 had a vehicle in it too, you know. And it's not like it still hasn't really changed. Like we got Jack and some progression and some abilities, which kind of reminded me of playing an infiltrator in Mass Effect 2 a little bit. But it really hasn't changed. Screw it. Make it first person horror. Yeah, Mike in chat just said make it first person horror. Yeah, I don't care. Everyone's gonna be mad about this. I don't care.
Dude, people in chat are not having this. Dano says, nah, get that idea out of here, Jez. Peter says, first person, hell no. Like people are not there. No, so boo, Jez, boo. Yeah, boo this man. First person Gears. We don't need another first person franchise in the, you know, we don't need that, Jez. We got enough already, you know?
Gears first person with pink sparkly gun. Sign me up, says Blue Moon. Dude, I think Gears would be sick in first person. I don't care what anyone says. I do not care, man. Bring me that Gears in first person. I think that'd be sick. You know, give it some like, I don't know, light RPG mechanics and stuff like that. Like Doom is fast paced. Gears is methodical and heavy. Give me a heavy first person shooter. Like, man, what was that? Like Space Hulk Deathwing, man. Did you ever play that? That game.
No,
heavy.
I played.
Plodding.
No, I didn't. I didn't play that once. No, I didn't. Sorry.
Rip. First person Gears. Do it.
I mean, they could make a first person Gears that's not necessarily mainline, like Saz Shadow says in chat. Gears Tactics showed that the Coalition, that the way they innovate Gears is by spinning the franchise in new ways through different gaming genres alongside the main series. So you never know. You don't necessarily Gears 6 and 7 may not be first person, but who's to say they couldn't do a first person game set in the Gears universe, right?
Yeah. It's like Yakuza, like a dragon, like when JRPG, right? And Mr. Joanna Dark says, make Gears of War JRPG. Screw it, why not? Can I have Gears of War JRPG? You could play. What, no, you don't like that.
And you know what? Well, no. I was just gonna say the franchise fatigue. Look how many people are excited for Halo simply because it's been 6 years. It's gonna be 6 years for a new Halo game.
Even I miss the pink sparkly.
Yeah. I'm just saying there's some, and look, I know some people will disagree with me. There's something to be said for making people wait and letting people miss something. And when it finally comes back, they're super excited. They start thinking to themselves, man, I haven't had this in a while. I wish I'd get another one. And then the new one comes and you're like, hell yeah. Like, I forgot how much I actually really enjoyed and missed Gears of War or Halo or name any other franchise that happens. You know what I mean?
Yes, I agree. Well, I kind of had that feeling about Resident Evil because, like I say, I completely skipped over Resident Evil 6. So by the time Resident Evil 7 came out, I was really up for something that was actually a return to form. But people, look at all these great Gears ideas we've got here in chat. We got Gears Metroidvania. We've got
Gears X Pokemon. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Gears JRPG, Gears Kart. Dude, I genuinely believe with Bethesda and Xbox's franchises, they should make some kind of Xbox kart game. It would be amazing. Can you imagine like Doom guy like fighting against Marcus Phoenix and some sort of kart racer? You know, and then he whips the chainsaw over the side, and you know, that'd be so cool, man. I would put Playground Games. I don't want to see the next Forza Horizon after this. Make a car game with all the franchises from Xbox and Bethesda. That'd be so sick. But there's so much potential in the Gears universe. We've got we know one planet. We don't really know the history of how humans got there. We don't even know if Earth exists in this universe. Like, is this some sort of abandoned Earth? One of the narratives in my head is that Serra, the planet Serra in Gears, is an abandoned Earth colony, and that has just been there for so long that they've all forgotten their history, they've forgotten their technology, and do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Or that it's like some alien planet that's just being forgotten about. But I don't know. There is a lot of negative space, and part of me thinks like that's kind of cool, but another part of me is kind of like, man, do something with that negative space. Do something.
Do something.
Do something.
Matt, he says, is there any news in State of Decay 3? I know Jez loves State of Decay 3, and so does Phil. Any predictions for that or at E3 or beyond? Love the work you two put in for the community. Thank you. Thank you for the support. I would say I don't expect State of Decay 3 at E3. I don't know if Jez agrees with me or disagrees with me on this one. I think that game's further away, although I could be wrong. Jez, what do you think? State of Decay 3 this year?
I think that's further away. I think the thing about State of Decay is that it is going through that transformation that we talked about of stepping up to the next level. They switched to the Unreal Engine, blah, blah, blah. And, they first time trying to engineer, multiplayer into the game. And there was all those issues with the tethering and stuff like that. I think like there's a lot of, with State of Decay, they've got the gameplay right. The next step for State of Decay, getting to that next level, it's all basically technical. I don't think they need to really, because State of Decay hasn't been experienced by the masses yet. It's got like a cult following. It's got a very active community, and it's had like a loads of cool updates. But I think to reach that mass market audience, it needs to basically stay the same, but hit that next level. It's kind of like not where Gears is, where Gears needs to change. I don't think State of Decay needs to fundamentally change. They just need to get everything to that next level. Multiplayer, the technology, the animations, the engine, all that sort of stuff. So that potentially may drag the development out a bit longer while they nail all that stuff down and really make a platform that they can grow the game on. But I don't care, man. If they take all the time they want, because State of Decay is this franchise that I've always wanted to see at that AAA super duper high quality level. So I don't think we'll see it this year. I don't think we'll see it.
Dovakin says, I love Gears, but yeah, it needs a break. Nathan says, Gears visuals are incredible. The roadie run, wall bouncing, and janky aiming are too dated, and the audience has plateaued. Which, you could say, yeah. I know there are definitely hardcore fans of Gears that don't want it to change. Zero Myth says, Nada, Jez, Sarah is Earth in the Gears universe lore. Well, like a Earth-like planet. And Rodella says, Gears life serve, it's like Destiny, but in the Gears universe. Travel planet to planet, fighting new enemies and creatures. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of good ideas that people have in chat.
Sarah is a horrible planet. I would not want to live there.
No, definitely.
It's full of like city-devouring worms and all kinds of horrible monsters, and all this murderous stuff going down, and a dictatorial government. Like, it's a horrible place to live. So maybe they do just like, what, screw this. Let's go to space.
Let's go to space.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, I'm super excited to see what the Coalition can do with Unreal Engine 5. I mean, they're one of the best studios Xbox has. They've been relying on them for years, so it's nice to see them get a break and to see, what they can come up with. But yeah, what else we got here? This is an interesting one, Jez. And I think maybe you can explain it to a lot of people because I don't really know much about it. Xbox and Tencent's Timmy are partnering up for a strategic alliance. What do you think that means? And shout out to Kid Smooth in the chat. The best spot is here. Thanks for dropping by, Smooth. So what do you think? Like, is this for mobile? Are we getting like Halo Mobile? Because Timmy is a studio that makes Call of Duty mobile.
Yeah.
What I mean, is this something that could have large huge ramifications in the future? This sort of partnership, or like, what's your take on it?
It's complicated, and I'm by no means an expert on the geopolitical business reality of engaging the Chinese market. It's super complicated. To sell Xbox there, they have to like partner up with a Chinese firm. It has to be all approved by the government. It has to be region locked at a hardware level, and all this sort of stuff has to happen for Microsoft in order to be able to tap that market. And it is a huge market. It can't be ignored. If your competitors are in that market, you also have to be in that market, or you're just leaving money on the table. It's sort of like similarly to why Sony started bringing its games to PC. It can't ignore that market. It's a big market. And so I don't really know the full details about exactly what they're doing, but I do know of at least one project based on an existing IP that Microsoft is working with Tencent Timmy on for a mobile game. I have no idea what what else they could be working on. I presume it's going to be multiple games. You know, Microsoft sort of dipped its toes into this before. We've got like Forza Street, which is, relatively popular, even though the game plays itself. It's got those sort of gacha mechanics where you want to collect all the cars, and it's you can just mess around with it on the train or on a bus or something. It's sort of low cognitive effort. It's like the perfect idea of a mobile game. And also, like, the Gears Pop, which was super low budget and was just kind of lame, frankly. So you know there's obviously a lot of potential in Microsoft's franchises across the board and how that could translate to mobile. Obviously, they now own Fallout Shelter, which is one of the biggest mobile games of all time. And they also own Minecraft, which is also one of the biggest mobile games of all time. Minecraft is consistently in the top 10 most downloaded, most sold games on Android and iOS. So, it is something they can do. Microsoft's just super bad at it right now. Minecraft Earth was a flop. Gears Pop was a flop. You could argue that Forza Street hasn't done great either. And like there's been a bunch of failed projects over the years. Do you remember that Eden Falls game
Yeah,
from
I
years
remember.
ago?
I remember. Yep.
Yeah, so there's this whole sort of Eden Falls rumors back in the day. There was also a Killer Instinct mobile prototype, which I actually got my hands on at one point, which was just so strange. But whatever, it is what it is. But there's a huge opportunity. There's a huge opportunity for high quality, actually good mobile games, and I think that's something Microsoft will explore. Like, everyone was mad about Diablo Immortal, but that game's gonna make billions of dollars. You just know it. You just know everyone who was mad about Diablo Immortal, they know it's gonna make a stupid amount of money. So there's potential to be tapped there. Will anyone here care about it? I don't know. Is it for core gamers? Probably not. Are we going to play those games? Probably not. Are you going to play those games, Rand?
No, I'm not. I
Probably
don't
not.
care. No. I
But
mean, like, I guess I'd ask chat, like, if this partnership came with a Halo mobile game, or it was a Halo game made for mobile, like very much like Call of Duty Mobile, would you play it? If it was a Gears mobile game, would you play it? I'm interested in seeing, like, would anybody actually here be interested in playing, a mobile game designed for mobile, instead of like, well, I have xCloud, so I'm just going to play Halo Infinite on my mobile phone instead of an actual mobile game made specifically for the platform. You know what I mean?
yeah, it's man, it's something I'd like to see. Like, Gear, what was it called now? Halo, Spartan Assault, and Spartan Strike. Those were like okay-ish games, but they didn't really have the gameplay loop that keeps you coming back, as a mobile game. I do think mobile games can work if they're high quality and stuff like that. Like, Fallout Shelter was great. I played the hell out of that. And when they put Xbox Live on it instead of Google Play Live or whatever it's called, Google Play has its whole own achievement system through the Google Play Store. It's lame. I hope they strip that out and put Xbox Live in. That'd be great. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I would totally go back and play that, but I don't expect we're going to see any core games out of this. Maybe they make a game that works on both platforms, like Diablo Immortal, for example. I totally expect Diablo Immortal will come to consoles and PC at some point. Like, why wouldn't it? Just why wouldn't it? It looks pretty good and it plays pretty well. It's just Diablo at the end of the day. Obviously, it's not the bread and butter of Diablo 4, which looks absolutely incredible. But Diablo Immortal with cross-play and cross-progression might be something you jump into every now and then with your friends. I don't know. But like John Gladstone in chat says, Genshin Impact is a mobile game that turned to console. So, Genshin Impact is a obvious example of an obvious example of a game that can do really well from mobile on console.
Mia Chan says, "Hi Jez, hi Rand, love your streams, ooh. Everybody with the ooh. They love the ooh.
Oh my god.
So Microsoft also announced another new game hitting Game Pass on day one, Dungeons and Dragons Dark Alliance, which comes out in June. What do you think about this as like the follow-up to essentially MLB The Show and Outriders? Getting this 4-player co-op game day one into Game Pass. You think it's big news? I don't really see many people talking about it, which I guess maybe speaks to the popularity, or at least the anticipation for this game. But then again, there's not a lot of like big games coming out between now and the end of the year, so you got to spend that money somehow and giving people a reason to play and keep subscribed to Game Pass.
Yeah. By the way, that Mia-chan, that was my cousin trolling.
Oh, she's just trolling. Okay.
Everyone in chat now spamming with the ooh. Let's get the ooh train going on. But yeah. I completely lost track of what you're saying, Rand.
Dungeons and Dragons Dark Alliance was announced for Game Pass on day one for June.
Oh yeah,
the 4-player co-op game. Yeah.
I don't even I'm not even super familiar with some of these games. Like, there's so much stuff coming to Game Pass. It's really hard to keep track of everything at this point. But yeah, as well, like you said, there's not a huge amount of games I'm excited for between now and whenever. What are the next big games? What are they?
You got Biomutant coming out in a couple weeks. That's a big release. There's a couple Warhammer games coming out at the end of May. June has this Dark, Dungeons and Dragons, and Scarlet Nexus, I believe. Zeke.
Oh yeah, Scarlet Nexus looks really good, actually.
Yeah, Zeke says, when's Scorn supposed to release? Who knows? I mean, they said this year, so every game says this year. 12 Minutes, The Ascent, Warhammer, Stalker. Xbox had an article they published in January that's like the 30 exclusives coming to Xbox this year, and it's like I think 2 of them have come out. Right? I think Adios and The Medium have been the only 2 to actually, from that article, to actually release this year. I don't know what's going on. Is everybody just waiting for E3 to announce release dates and stuff?
Well, there is one major game I know is going to be announced with a July launch date. From that whole list, which I'm really excited about. But there is stuff coming, I guess.
Yeah. Hopefully that's The Ascent or Warhammer Darktide, because those look pretty cool. Psychonauts 2. I mean, I saw Phil changed his avatar today on Twitter to a Psychonauts thing, and Psychonauts 1 just hit Game Pass, and Psychonauts 2's been rated, so that's got to come out at some point. And yeah,
could Psychonauts be the kid-friendly franchise that becomes the mascot of that generation? I don't know. But that's multiplat too, isn't it?
Yes, that is multiplat.
Psychonauts 3 probably won't be, right?
I believe 12 Minutes is coming to Game Pass, Mike. I cannot wait for that game. 12 Minutes looks awesome. I guess also, on PlayStation, there's Ratchet and Clank come out in June, which I'm excited to play. But yeah, I mean, just big releases. It's not really much that you could essentially put in a Game Pass. But yeah, the May update's out, Jez. And
yes, it is.
They made Quick Resume even better. 2 of the biggest problems I had with Quick Resume, and I don't know if anybody really agrees with me here, but you could never tell if the game you were playing was going to be put into Quick Resume without basically ending the game and starting a new one. And then you could never tell how many games were in your Quick Resume queue. And to sort of answer those frustrations and improve the overall experience, you can now tell if the game you're playing is in Quick Resume. You can hit the guide button, and underneath the clock, You'll see, like, if it has auto HDR, you'll see the tag for FPS boost, but now you'll also see, and yes, that is Shakespeare barking. And I didn't want to mute myself because I would forget to unmute myself. He's barking at probably a dog
I didn't
outside.
hear him.
Yeah,
I
some
don't hear
people.
him.
Eddie the Psycho said he could hear him, but there'll also be a tag for quick resume, so you'll be able to see if you're playing the game if the that title will be in quick resume, and then. What Microsoft also has done is they had the system actually make a automatic group called Quick Resume, where any of the titles that are currently in the queue are all in this group. And because it's a group, you can pin it to the home screen so you can see all the different titles that you have it there, right? So you can kind of jump in between stuff, and they've actually made Quick Resume faster. They added audio pass through for people that use external speaker systems. There's a couple new dynamic backgrounds, one for motes and one which I think is really cool with the OG Xbox like startup thing with the green bubbling of power, which I think is super awesome. I hope we get more dynamic themes as it goes on, like game specific ones like Halo Infinite, Gears, Fable, Forza. I hope they allow people to actually, like, third parties to actually make dynamic themes. You can kind of like get those.
Yeah.
I think that'd be cool.
They should totally open that up to third parties and stuff. I just picked the blob of power or whatever you called it. What is it called? Does it have a name?
The dynamic theme's called the original. I don't know if that green blob of power is actually called anything.
Well, it is now. It's now known as the green blob of power.
I mean, is there a name for it, guys? Let me know in chat. Like, is there a name for that, like, bubbling green energy that's like kind of pulsating there? I don't know if it was actually called something or not. So
I use the stripes one at the moment.
the stripes one. Okay. Rick Gaffney says, "Do you think we'll get an Elite Series 3 soon, Jez?" I think there'll be another Elite.
Yeah, I think there will be. Like, every time I use my Elite as my main controller, and like I say, I think I said before that the rubber grips fell off the trigger locks on the back because they're held on by nothing, Rand. They're held on by a wing and a prayer, and and we know how that panned out. So, but some other people have had a lot more problems with theirs. I've repeatedly got reports of shoulder buttons breaking on the Elite Series 2 and stuff like that. I think it's a problem when you sell something as Elite with a premium price tag that it doesn't, stand up to the test of time. But at the same time, it's kind of like these do have a lot of moving parts and you are beating the hell out of them a lot of the time. So maybe I'm being too harsh on it or something, but I do think we should hopefully see another Series Elite controller or whatever at some point. They've got that new, the Bayo Play Portal Bang & Olufsen headset that had that new logo Xbox Limited Series. Did you see that, Rand?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So I fully expect that to be on the Series controller. I want to see an Elite Series wireless headset. I want to see what Microsoft can do. We've seen what they can do with the $99 headset. Well, that's really good. I want to see what they can do with a high-end, maybe $200, $300 headset. That'd be pretty cool to see. But I also want them to make a handheld, Rand.
You do want to make a hand. I think they'll make an Elite Series 3 simply because why not? People buy them. But you are right about the build issues. It definitely seems like they need to have that figured out. And, they had the share button. Nathan says he would happily pay more money for more durability. And I remember actually talking to people at Xbox about it when they were like, well, what do you think about it? It's like, well, it's twice the price of a regular controller, so I expect it to last at least twice as long. I don't know, a regular controller for me lasts maybe a year from use. So I expect an Elite Series controller to last a minimum of 2 years. And I had parts falling off on the Series 1 and Series 2 within like months. So
F's in the chat for Rand's controller, guys. That's what you get for playing like PUBG and getting really mad and throwing your controller around.
People keep on at Humdrug is like, Rand, what's the deal with Starfield? Is it not exclusive? Why are people suddenly I mean,
I think Mr. Grubb, said on a podcast recently that he didn't know if it was exclusive or not. I think,
yeah.
and
I mean,
some people have taken that
I
to mean that
listened
it
to
isn't
I
exclusive.
listened to what he said on Kind of Funny. I mean, he says he doesn't know for sure, but he would say that it's exclusive, and it comes to PlayStation a year later. I mean, I think when it launches, it's exclusive for to the Xbox and PC. I mean, I don't know about Xbox's long term plans for that, but I think the vast majority of the Bethesda games, as Phil said, they're only going to be on platforms that support Game Pass, and PlayStation doesn't support Game Pass. And PlayStation's out there, getting like, money hatting Final Fantasies and all these other things. It would be kind of stupid for Xbox to then be like, "Here's our Bethesda games as well." You know what I mean? So, you know, we'll find out, because I would imagine, when E3 comes along, they'll say it's exclusive to Xbox and PC. That'll be one of those moments where people realize, oh damn, I guess some of these Bethesda games are only going to be on Xbox and PC. I think people worry too much about some of this stuff. You know what I mean? Jeff Grubb can't know everything about Xbox, just like me or Jez can't know everything. That's not
Talking
it's not
about
possible.
for yourself, pal.
Oh, but I forget you do know everything.
No, I don't. I don't.
Yeah.
But I don't. But yeah, I've never personally had any hard evidence that it's definitely exclusive. It's just like, if you read between the lines of what they said and what they've done, and understand what they're going for from a business perspective, the only reason I could see to stop that from being exclusive is fear of the potential press blowback and worrying about it hurting the critical reception of the game or something. But but that's like the weakest possible reason I can imagine to avoid that. Sony is going all out to sabotage Xbox with its exclusive partnership deals. Like, why should Microsoft not do the same? When it was announced, was it Shadow of the Tomb Raider or the one before it, Rise of the Tomb Raider? I get mixed up with the naming. But when Tomb Raider 2 was revealed to be Xbox exclusive, the press lost their minds, Rand. They lost their goddamn minds. And why? Can't Microsoft compete with Sony on an equal footing? At the end of the day, if Sony's doing it, then Microsoft should do it as well. And Sony are doing it, so I think Microsoft should do it as well. Starfield should be exclusive. And if we move towards an industry where everyone can just play whatever they want on any console, then I'm all for that. But from a business perspective and an analytical perspective, if Sony's being this aggressive, I think Xbox should be this aggressive. But whatever.
Yes.
Again, don't have a marketing degree, and I don't have a business degree, Rand, believe it or not. You do, right?
I would, yeah, I got nothing. I would love for Microsoft to be aggressive. And Ridley Prime says, Rand and Jez, the best Xbox podcast ever. Thank you for that compliment. Cookie says, I would like it if PlayStation allowed a Game Pass subscription. I think a lot of people would, but PlayStation doesn't necessarily have to do what Xbox is doing. They're each doing their own thing and being successful at it, right? What else we got here? The May update also added stuff for the Xbox app and some other things, but the big thing was about Quick Resume. Xbox also started a console purchase pilot program. So if you're an Xbox insider, you can register to get your chance to be able to essentially buy a next-gen console from Xbox themselves. Similar to how Sony does, like they have the PS5 Direct Queue where you buy it directly from them. And this is something I think Microsoft should have been doing from the get-go. And I think maybe the production problems surprised them, and maybe they lasted way longer than they thought, and now they're like, oh man, maybe this is something to do. What do you think about this console purchase pilot program, Jez?
I actually haven't looked into it too much. Is it just sort of a way to bypass scalpers and stuff?
Yeah,
Sony
yeah.
has something similar, right?
Yeah, they do. So basically, if you're an Xbox insider on the Xbox One, you can sort of register for your chance to get picked to buy the system, and then you would have to make the purchase on the Xbox One.
Oh,
So
interesting.
it basically is like, yeah, if they know what systems you have, so
Gives you an upgrade path, basically.
yeah, so you'd be able to buy it directly from them, bypassing scalpers. And a lot of like next gen thing is like, were you on the PC or near your phone at the right place at the right time, right? Because a lot of these stocks for a lot of these systems are announced, they're available, and then they're gone instantly. So if you're not at your PC ready to buy it, you're not getting it. And that's how it was only that's how I was able to get my PS5 digital. I was literally on the computer. I had Twitter up. I saw Wario64 tweet that PS5 digitals were in an Amazon. Immediately clicked the link and bought it. And that's how I was able to get my PS5. But not everybody is as lucky to have that. And a lot of people are just like, I'm sick of trying to always get these things. So it's nice for Sony and Microsoft to offer their own way of like, hey, we know you're an Xbox fan. We know you only have an Xbox One. If you're in the insider program, here's a chance. And we're going to test this out. And then maybe it's like, because like, who wants an Xbox Series X? It's obviously Xbox One owners. So it's like, if you haven't got it yet, like, and those people are dying to get a new system, but they can't, then yeah, why not have Microsoft basically just sell them directly, right? I don't know. I think it's something. I think it's something they needed to do. I think it's something they should have been doing since the very beginning. So
it just goes to show like how much of an issue this semiconductor thing is. That they're having to set up these systems. I don't know if you saw this recently, Rand, but I was face palming the way society has fallen. But did you see that Walmart and Target have banned sales of Pokemon cards because of violence over scalpers trying to get the cards?
I did see that.
Just, what the hell is going on? Pokemon cards, for God's sake. Oh my god.
Hey, my buddy, my good buddy Cold Eastwood's in chat. He says, to get those consoles, you had to be hitting that button over and over that first week. It's ridiculous. I mean, I was doing it. I don't know if you saw, Jez, but Colt started his new podcast, Xbox Newscast, and he had Richard from Review Tech USA on, and the one and only Jeff Grubb. And,
damn, Colt flexing his influence.
I know, the super big time Xbox influencer that he is. Big time YouTuber. You want to talk about a YouTube millionaire? He's a YouTube billionaire.
Oh yeah,
always doing great things.
Colt is coming on the Windows Central Xbox.
He is.
Chat
He's going to be talking up with Miles Dampier. That'll be interesting tomorrow. Blaine says Jeff Grubb today said he didn't know if Starfield was coming this year. He said he wasn't confident in his info at this point. I mean, I don't think we have that much longer to wait to find out if it is or it isn't. They'll tell us at E3. If it's coming this year, they'll make a big spectacle out of it and being like, here's the date, November 15th, 2021. And if it's not, we'll know because they won't have a date. It'll just say 2022 or something. So we'll know. There's not much time left. We'll find out if Starfield's coming this year or if it's coming next year, Let's see what else we got here. I want to talk about 20 years of Xbox, Jez, because
that's a lot of years.
This year's the 20th anniversary of Xbox, and they're kind of doing some of the promotions. So, in the chat, you can answer along. What are some of your favorite memories of Xbox over these last 20 years? Like something that just kind of pops out to you, like about Xbox, and just maybe the reason why you're on the platform to begin with and stuff. Because I'm sure everybody has a story about one, why they're listening to the Xbox 2 podcast, or why they picked up an Xbox in the first place, and what made them stick with Xbox and the games they like and stuff like that. So, what do you think? What are some of your memories? And one of the reasons why you chose this platform.
Man. When I think I've told this story before, but when I was a kid and I was in high school, there was a government program to persuade kids to stay in school. They were like, if you have 100% attendance this week, we'll give you $40. If you were from like one of these poorer areas. And I was from a poor area, and I was a poor kid with poor parents. So I qualified for the full-blown $40 just for attending school that week. because that's how bad truancy had gotten. So I was like, wow, $40? I've never had this much money in my whole life. So unlike a lot of the kids at school who were just literally getting the money, spending it on random stuff, like literally, man, kids were buying like remote control cars and just driving them around in the road and then just leaving them there. Like there's just so, like what high school kid doesn't know what to do with money, you know. So that's what a lot of the kids did. But I saved that money up and used it to buy my very first Xbox. And even though I didn't really know what games to buy for it except Halo, we used to just play Halo split screen all the time, even though I'm not a huge fan of the franchise now and I don't have a lot of nostalgia for it. But Halo was the first Xbox game I played, like a lot of people. And that huge, massive, hulking console was just sort of like I couldn't believe how big it was. But even back then, I wasn't convinced Microsoft were going to stick with it. I thought it was just some sort of like side project thing they were doing. And, I also had a PS2, which I used way more than the Xbox. But sure enough, they did. They brought out the Xbox 360, which is when I really sort of came back to console gaming because I'd been spending most of my time on PC at that point. So for me, all of my major Xbox memories, they come from like Dragon Age, Mass Effect, a lot of these sort of more classic games from the middle of the gen. All those sort of games. I played Dragon Age so many times, man. I've completed that game so many times, the original Dragon Age Origins. And Mass Effect as well. I've completed Mass Effect 1 like at least 10 times, I think. It's the only game that I came close to having all the achievements for. But I never did it on Insanity because Matriarch Benezia in the original would ragdoll physics you through the floor. And I was just like, I'm done with this. I'm done. This is impossible. So I'm hoping those sort of weird ragdoll quirks from that boss battle have been fixed in Legendary Edition. So I can finally get through it on Insanity, which is sort of like a 14-year-old, quest that I need to complete. But I don't know, man. Obviously, I feel affinity for Xbox because it gave me this career, blogging about Xbox and the Xbox community and all the Xbox community support and getting to know people about Xbox and starting to understand the sheer amount of passion and effort that goes into building this platform is, it's been transformative for me, obviously, because I built a whole career out of covering this platform. So Xbox does mean a lot to me. And here's to the next 20 years, man.
Yeah, the next 20
and
years.
Obviously you were on stage at E3 because of Xbox.
It's like obviously I got an Xbox for Halo, and I think a lot of people did. And it was my first taste of multiplayer gaming. Halo 2 was incredible. I've talked about that extensively about what Halo means to me. I met so many great friends back then, which I don't really talk to anymore, but I always reminisce about, oh man, the year I played Halo Infinite. Or Halo 2 rather, and all the friends I've met on Xbox over the course of the years. Some of my best friends, like I met Colt, and I talk to Colt every single day. And I have a group of friends that I talk to and not necessarily play with every night, but we used to, and it just really depends on the games that I've known for 10 years. And some of them are even closer than the real life friends I've had. So a lot of it has to do with the social. And then, I did the whole gamer score thing, achievements. It's how a lot of people know me. I met Phil Spencer, became friends with him. I went to E3. Like, I literally went to E3 because of Xbox. And they put me up on, stage, essentially, and let me hit 1 million gamer score when they didn't have to because I wasn't number one. I was number 5. I was the 5th. I was the 5th person. So, basically, Phil, that was a favor Phil did for me, which is incredible. So it's just like, I just think of Xbox. I think of Halo. I think of friendships I've made over the past 20 years. I think of incredible gaming experiences I've had in the platform, whether or not they were exclusive, like Gears, Fable, Forza, but like the BioShocks, the Mass Effects, the Batman Arkhams, you know what I'm saying? Like, just incredible like gaming experiences I've had on the platform. And I don't know, man. Yeah. You talk about your career. Like I started this YouTube channel, mostly talking about Xbox stuff, and it's definitely become like a bigger part of my life to this degree. So yeah, it means a lot. So it's like you said, here's to another 20 years, and I can't wait to see what's next for the platform. Can't wait to see how Game Pass grows and it, expands the user base and everything, and all the new games that Xbox will be putting out. Like, it's crazy, man. It's crazy to think that it's literally been 20 years, and the Xbox originally came out when I was 19, like 19. It feels like a second life ago. You know what I mean? Like 19 years old. When the original Xbox, and like I could never have predicted where 20 years later, me and you be doing a podcast being listened to by thousands of people every single week, tens of thousands every single week, listening to what we have to say. People listening from Africa and like Brazil and all across the world. It's actually kind of crazy when you actually think about it. But yeah, here's to another 20 years for Xbox. I mean, I don't know. Will we be doing Xbox 2 in 2041, Jez? When
Dude, I hope so, man. I'm down, man. Let's do it. How old will we be then?
I mean, I'll be 59.
You'll be like in your 70s.
Yeah,
man.
can you imagine if we're still doing a show 20 years from now? Jesus.
Oh man, will you guys still be listening to us in 20 years? You better be. You better be.
Crazy. Gunstar in chat says Colt starting out on his own. It's like when George Michael left Wham. Whittier says is a lottery a better alternative to taking chances online? I'm not necessarily sure it's a lottery, but there's not a lot of people signed up for the Insiders program, I don't think. So it's definitely, you just giving yourself a better chance, whether or not you can get one from Amazon or if you can get one from Xbox. You're just giving yourself a better chance. And Keyshawn says, have you heard about Ratchet and Clank being filmic at 4K? And once again, you guys are my favorite podcast. I never get tired of Xbox 2K. Well, thank you. Yeah, I did see that Ratchet is going to run at 30 frames at 4K, but that doesn't matter to me because they have a 60 frames mode, so that's the one I will be playing on. I don't care. I ain't going back to 30 frames. It's done. 30 frames is dead to me at this point. It's absolutely dead. Filmic 30 frames. I don't know about you guys, but with this new generation, it's all about frame rate. So
how do you feel when you watch a TV show and it's in like 30 frames?
I mean, like usually TV shows aren't in 24 frames or whatever. I don't know. It's fine because you're not in control of that or whatever, right?
What if TV was 60 frames per second? Wasn't like didn't they film The Hobbit in 60 frames and everyone thought it was weird?
It was like 40. Yeah, it was horrible. It's like it gave it that soap opera look that people don't like,
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
So like Lord of the Rings is filmic, but soap opera is Xbox Series X TV.
I think people just used to movies running at 24 frames or whatever it is. That looks like the movie thing, but when you're playing a game, it's like I don't know. It's just 30 feels like molasses. And now that every game is basically 60 frames, I don't know why anybody would want to play on anything less.
Yeah. I think one of the reasons why, like I said this on Twitter, that Mass Effect 1 Legendary Edition, the difficulty tuning feels weird because I'm playing the game on Insane and it doesn't feel hard. It feels really easy. And I think like there might be some issues with the difficulty tuning, but at the same time, I'm wondering like, is it just because I'm used to it being like 25 to 30 frames per second, and now it's like rock solid 60. It's actually like, oh wow, I can actually shoot things now. So I don't know. It makes you feel more connected to the game.
You should try it at 120 frames.
I should.
Because I mean, it does feel good at 60, but it feels even better at 120. So
damn.
Yeah. That's the thing. The frame rate, you can immediately notice it when I started up, and I was just like, oh man, this feels great. But yeah, I ain't going back to 30 frames, so they can offer a 4K 31 for Ratchet, but I'll be playing in the 61 just like I did for Miles Morales, because 60 frames is better than 30 frames, and it always will be. You could have better particle effects and ray tracing and all that stuff, but it's all about the frame rate at the end of the day. And I bet you Ratchet and Clank probably looks better at 60 frames than it does at 30 and 4K. But, that's just me. What else we got here? Battlefield 6 was supposed to be revealed this month, according to insiders, but now the reveal's been set for June. Do you think it's possible that maybe it shows up at Xbox's E3? But okay, Jez, I got to ask you a question about this. I want to hear what you have to say. During the investor call, when Andrew Wilson said that it was coming in June, he said that Battlefield 6 was going to be a true next-gen experience. And people got super excited. But then he also said it's coming to Xbox One and PS4 and be cross-gen. So a lot of people feel that that's sort of... what's the word I'm looking for? I completely just blanked. But they're sort of like lying. Well, maybe not lying is not the right word, but mixed messaging. Like, how can you call Battlefield 6 a true next-gen experience when it's also on last gen, and people got upset about the game being held back? What are your thoughts about that whole Battlefield thing? And Jez is muted, so I guess
I'm Jez Al muted.
Jez Al's muted. What do you think about the battle? Can a game be a true next-gen experience even if it's coming to last-gen consoles? Is it misleading marketing? Because that's what they're kind of going with, right? A true next-gen experience.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I feel like this argument about next gen, past gen, and all that, and current gen, man, it's confusing. Like, I feel like the argument about it is sort of not as potent as it used to be, because we do have this x86 architecture now. Consoles are more PC-like than they've ever been, and it's easy to sort of, theoretically easy anyway, to scale the versions between devices. Obviously, in the case of Cyberpunk, this isn't always the case, where like the PC version is vastly different to the base PS4 and Xbox One S versions of the game. That being said, I do think EA is a studio and publisher that's big enough to make a version that's good on next gen and a version that's good on past gen, or current gen versus past gen, I should say. Consoles have been out long enough, we can start calling it current gen now, I think. But I do want to believe that they can make a version that scales across devices and it won't be held back, quote unquote. But sometimes maybe that isn't the case. But we do live in a world where the semiconductor shortage is stopping the rollout of next gen. So if you're a game publisher, you kind of have to think, do I go all in on next gen when they can't even meet demand? Or do I look at the previous install base of 150 million-ish consoles and target those as well? From a pure cold-hearted business perspective, it makes complete sense why it's cross-gen. I don't know like how you could possibly argue that it's fair of them to ignore that 150 million install base when they've got a game which can potentially easily scale between devices, and they've got a game that, you know, is sort of hamstrung by the slow rollout of next-gen consoles. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if you're going to try to like market your Battlefield game as a true next-gen experience, and it's coming to last gen. Like, I get why it's coming to last gen. I get why it's cross gen. And I never like, if games coming out this year, of course it's going to be cross gen because they can't just basically give up on that user base. You know, not everybody has a Series X or PS5 yet. So yeah, of course everything's going to be cross gen for a little bit, and it might even be longer simply because nobody can buy the consoles because of the semiconductor shortage. I guess they're going to have, it's like kind of with Xbox, which I was talking about. It's time to put up or shut up. Time to show us, right? So if you want to talk about a true next-gen experience, well, then you need to show us, you know, why you're saying that is what it is instead of it just being essentially a marketing tagline. You know, with all the rumors that, you know, Call of Duty's having problems this year and going back to essentially World War II, now's your chance to essentially step up and maybe take some of that market share back. I understand a lot of people didn't like Battlefield 5, but Battlefield 6 delivers that kind of futuristic or near future modern combat, and it's really good, or at least significantly better than last year's or Battlefield 5's version, and way better than Call of Duty. Like, whew, like it could be it could be something special. But yeah, I'm like, I wasn't expecting it to be next gen only, so I'm not surprised that it is. And I know a lot. I think what it is people are selfish, and I'm one of them, right? How many times have I said, of course I would want Xbox and PlayStation to completely dump the last gen, right? Because I have a next gen console, and I'm not playing on Xbox One anymore, so I'm a selfish person. I'm sure most people are. Like, I want these developers to make experiences tailored to me. I was able to get a system. I was fortunate. But that's not the case. Obviously, it's a business, first and foremost. So I think people are just like, oh, I got these new systems. I spent all this money, and they feel like their game that they're looking forward to is going to be held back because of these old-ass systems, and that Battlefield 6 can't take the next leap to truly be next-gen because it's anchored by those old-ass Jaguar CPUs on the PS4 and the Xbox. But then you have the PC angle where it's like, the game's going to be run amazing on a 3080, but still has to run on old-ass PCs as well. So I get people's frustration with it, but I mean, I wasn't expecting it to be next-gen anyways. I'm still I gotta love Battlefield. I know some people would had it in their top 10 when we were doing the lists earlier, but I can't wait to see what that game is like. And I do want it to come back. I do want there to be a little bit more of a competition between them and Call of Duty. So I hope Battlefield 6 just blows people away, and you have these big servers and like a cool ass battle royale that launches next year. That'd be awesome. And the Starfield leaks, Jez. We talked about it before we got on the show. But I figured I mention it again. What do you think about these Starfield leaks that these new pictures from a build from 2018? You got any insight on any of this stuff, like where they're coming from, and how do you think they look, like what the game looks like?
Man, it's hard because like when you see a screenshot that's rough out of context, you can't. What can you glean from it realistically? It looks like a space game. Some of the rumors we've heard of are you can make your own spaceships, and certainly from some of the spaceship designs, they do look like cobbled together, kind of like almost junky, like someone's built a spaceship out of scrap. Maybe that's how you start, and then you can progress into like more complicated spaceships and stuff. What it kind of reminds me of is an old British TV show called Red Dwarf, which I don't know if you've ever heard of.
I've heard of it, but I've never watched it. No.
So all the Brits in chat right now will be like hyped about Red Dwarf because Red Dwarf's one of the greatest comedies of all time. Whether you're British or not, it's just genius. Red Dwarf is absolute genius. It's basically Red Dwarf is a parody of Star Trek, Star Wars, and all sci-fi. It's a sitcom where it's about a group of they're asteroid miners basically. Red Dwarf is a mining ship, and one of the crewmates gets stuck in stasis, and then there's a radiation leak while he's in stasis in jail, basically in jail, and then he wakes up 1.4 million years in the future when everybody's dead. So what he's left with is this sort of universe that's empty. There's no one left. It's just scrap and ruins and occasional weird alien mutants and robots and all sorts of this stuff. But it's sort of like a post-apocalyptic space show, basically. And the red dwarf is falling apart. It's like a junk ship that's just been drifting through space for 1.4 million years. And they like raid derelict spaceships to repair it and stuff like that. That's literally what the feeling I got from watching some of these Starfield leaks. I have no idea what Starfield's going to be like. I don't know if it's going to be like No Man's Sky, a connected game, or single player, or RPG. Well, we know it's an RPG. Don't know if it's going to have any like connected elements. Don't know if it's going to be a crafting sort of game. Don't know if it's going to be a typical story-based game or a typical Bethesda RPG sort of game. What I do know, Rand, is that I'm fucking hyped out of my mind for it because even though like Fallout 4 is kind of like not my favorite Fallout game, it was still an amazing game. I put 200 hours in. I love Elder Scrolls. I think Todd Howard is a genius, and I can't wait to see more about it. But I'm loving all these Red Dwarf references in chat right now.
Hmm.
People are dropping all the quotes. Everybody is dead, Dave. That's what when he comes back to life out of stasis. Like the only company he's got in Series 1 is the ship's AI. And like he's like walking around and there's just piles of dust everywhere. And it's all the dead crew that are dead and they've been irradiated and they've just rotted over the millenniums. And the ship's AI is just saying everybody is dead, Dave, like over and over again. It's just hilarious. You should watch Red Dwarf. It's from like the early 90s, late 80s, but honestly, it holds up. It's so damn funny, so good. Watch it. I demand that you watch.
You
Red Dwarf.
demand that you watch, like you demanded I play Pokemon.
Yeah, but unlike that, I wanted you to play Pokemon because I wanted you to suffer. But I wanted you to play. I want you to watch Red Dwarf because I want you to have a nice time, man. Everyone in this chat needs to go and watch Red Dwarf right now. Well, after the show. Okay, thanks, bye.
Yeah. Geez, I just blank. What were we talking about? Why'd you bring up Red Dwarf?
Talking about Starfield leaks.
Oh yeah, Starfield leaks. Yeah, I mean, for an early build from 4 years ago, it looks fine. I don't know why all this stuff is leaking now. I mean, I don't know I mean, I think we know that the game's getting revealed soon. So, does this bode well for a release this year? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But it's definitely interesting seeing the leaks come out. It was kind of funny because I think the first leaks happened like right after Microsoft purchased Bethesda. It was just like, here is this new stuff from Starfield that nobody knew, and it's like Xbox bought Bethesda. Like, oop, here's what the game looks like. So. Yeah, it's. I personally can't. I'm really excited to see what the game actually is. What did you think about the Ubisoft and free to play stuff, Jez? People taking it out of context. I know there's been back and forth about Ubisoft changing strategy to make more free to play games, but then they said it's just they're going to make more free to play games, but at the same time still put out as many AAA games, premium games as they always have. Is that just kind of what they're saying now because people are getting a little bit worried maybe about these big AAA publishers chasing after the freemium or the free-to-play model because it's basically dominating everything and all this revenue is coming from that, and Ubisoft really doesn't have any of that? What do you think's going on there?
I think like some of it boils down to the motivations between like an independent company and a publicly traded company. So Ubisoft is a publicly traded company, and their shareholders demand perpetual growth. What are you going to do to grow the Ubisoft name? What are you going to do about that? So when Ubisoft talks to its shareholders in these sort of investor calls, they're sort of like, it's different from the way they talk to us about it, right? Because they don't want us to think that they're abandoning their core stuff, and I don't think they are. I don't think they're going to abandon Assassin's Creed. I don't think they're going to abandon Watch Dogs. It sold pretty well, I think, and all that sort of stuff. So I do think when they talk about we're going to dig deeper into free to play, I do think that is in addition to what they're doing already. I don't think it's necessarily going to come at the detriment. In fact, it could actually help, because if they leave games in incubation a little bit longer, and we got into this problem before where Assassin's Creed was launching almost annually for a while, and people just got fatigued with it, and then all of their franchises became like almost identical. Watch Dogs plays like Assassin's Creed, which plays like The Division, which plays like Ghost Recon and stuff like that. I wouldn't actually mind if they scaled back some of those games, chased growth elsewhere, and still gave us high quality versions of those core IPs. I know you're not happy though, Rand, because you want them to make a new Splinter Cell.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Why can't they make a new Splinter Cell?
Because it's a bad game, okay? Anyway,
Mm.
I'm joking. But hey, Rand, I just have to be right back real quickly. So you're
Wait,
gonna have
you
to go
can't leave
solo
me
for me.
alone.
I, I will, I must,
Okay.
because I drank too much orange squash.
Okay.
I'll
Okay.
be right back.
All right. Sounds good. Yeah. I mean, I hope Ubisoft isn't pursuing more of the free to play stuff because I just don't really have any interest in any of the free to play titles out right now. And I particularly do like the Ubisoft model, but I'm sure they're a little bit jealous of seeing all the revenue that EA makes from Apex Legends and how much Epic makes from Fortnite, and their investors are probably like, we need stuff like that too. So yeah, it is what it is. Zero Miss says, does Jez know if all the Resident Evil games are coming to Game Pass with the exception of Resident Evil 8? There was that rumor, but I mean, they said it was supposed to come out like the day before Resident Evil 8, and it didn't. So I'm going to say it's probably not true. Like, why would you want to put all your Resident Evil games on Game Pass right before your new one comes out? I mean, they put 7 on there for a reason to get people like, okay, we need to play the story to find out what's going on in 8, but didn't really make a lot of sense for me for them to put all the Resident Evil games on there right before or right after 8 comes out. Not saying that they couldn't put all the Resident Evil games on there. Maybe they will, but I think it's probably too close to the release of to the new game for that to actually happen. Skull Record says, Rand, you're an honest guy, so I have a question. If Halo and Starfield get pushed back to 2022, is it worth buying a Series X this year? It's probably not. This might be a controversial opinion, but I'd almost say it's not even worth having. It's not necessarily worth having a Series X or a PS5 right now. I think the libraries are too light. There's long gaps of releases. You're not necessarily missing out on anything right now if you don't have a Series X. And if Halo and Starfield get delayed to next year, obviously that's 2 games that gets pushed out. But like Halo's going to have an Xbox One version. The only thing you're really missing out on is Quick Resume, which is amazing. And most of the games are running at 60 frames. So if like frame rate is really important to you, then that could be something you'd be missing out on. And honestly, like I'm saying this with me having a Series X and saying I can't go back to 30. So there's no way I can go back to the Xbox One, right? I just can't, because I've experienced what I've always wanted with is all this great frame rate stuff. So I can't go back. But then again, I can't tell. I can't really tell you to go out and try to spend $500 to get a system because it's expensive. So yeah, like it's all. A lot of people will always say that the people who buy these consoles, PS5 and Xbox Series X, like we're early adopters, and the price will always end up dropping at some point in the future, and there will always be more games added. So the question is it worth buying now for $500 when there's really not much anything new to play? And that's why I would say it's probably not worth it today, but a year from now, 2 years from now, absolutely. The only thing you're missing out on is Quick Resume FPS boost in 60 frames. Because it's not like Xbox has put out anything new. I mean, it was Gears Tactics at launch, and that's it. So you're not missing any exclusive new Xbox bangers right now. So if those 2 games end up getting delayed, I would say probably wait to 2022. But that's just my opinion on it.
I'm back.
Great, you're back. Someone asked basically if Halo and Starfield got delayed to next year, if you would recommend not getting a Series X till then. And I was just like, I'm not necessarily even sure it's worth getting a PS5 and Series X today. Unless you're super interested in like FPS boost and stuff and 60 frames, which is amazing because I can't go back. But everybody, buys a system for a different reason,
Yeah, it's man. As a console life cycle plays out, it's like you say, people buy for different reasons. Early adopters buy because they want the cutting edge, but then a lot of other people will just be like, "Yeah, I'll pick it up in a sale. I'll pick it up when it's ready." Blah 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 blah. I think the the semiconductor shortage is sort of affecting this, and there was some breaking news during the show where TSMC, who make a lot of the semiconductors and stuff, they reportedly have plans to build a 25 billion 3 nanometer chip making plant in the US.
Hmm.
As part of like efforts to solve this quote unquote crisis. The demand for semiconductors is getting just absurd because like everyone's putting them in cars. You can get like smart toasters and smart kettles now, for God's sake. People want chips for bloody well everything. I look at my room and like there's just microchips everywhere. Like my Amazon Echo and my Xbox and my several phones that I have. My controller has microchips in it. My headset has microchips in it. Microphone probably has a microchip in it. Like there's just loads of stuff that's driving this demand right now. And obviously, there's not enough production to meet demand, and it's only gonna get worse as more and more people switch to like electric cars and stuff like that. It's just gonna get increasingly worse. So, yeah, I guess buying one right now, you're not exactly missing out on a lot because a lot of these games are going to go cross-gen because of the semiconductor shortage. So, I don't know. For most people, I think I would often just recommend, getting an Xbox Series S maybe for the SSD boost, because after you've used the SSD, it's really hard to go back to the slow mechanical. But
I mean, it's
beyond
hard.
that,
It's hard to go back to Xbox One. SSD is just one thing. 60 frames is another. You
yeah.
know, like I can't go back to 30 frames. So, oh man, it's. I mean, I love my Series X and my PS5. Like, they're everything I wanted. It's like it's finally the technology to do 60 frames on pretty much everything. It's just like the game library needs to be the newer game library. I say like Xbox and PlayStation both have a wide back compat catalog, and Xbox is trying to make theirs even better with FPS boosts and stuff. So if that matters to you, then that's something to consider. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's 60 frames is nice.
Nice.
It's super nice. Let's see what else we got here. Faisal says, is Elden Ring going to be timed exclusive? No, I doubt that very much. I think that game's multi-platform through and through. Whenever it comes out, probably next year at this point, right? I think that's probably a 2022 release. Whittier says, last week Nintendo revealed Game Builder Garage and Sonia's Dreams. So Xbox have a game creator application. They did. It was called Project Spark, and nobody used it, so they shut it down. And is that a mistake? I don't know. Like, a lot of people talk very highly of Dreams, but I'm not really sure a lot of people use Dreams. I think they need to bring that to PC to get more people to use it. But Jez, do you think it's a mistake for them not to have a gamer creation app?
I think ultimately the response to that is we see a lot of stuff from Dreams, but nobody uses it. Like it's good to create like a cool social post and stuff. Like, hey, look what I made in Dreams, but it's like Project Spark. No one really used it. It just is what it is. People generally don't really. Most people, I would say, don't really want to, when they sit at their gaming console, they don't really think I want to get on and do this. They just want to play a game and chill. I think a lot of the time. Same with like Mario Maker and stuff. I know Mario Maker sold pretty well, but and it created some really great viral posts. But it's kind of like when I think of it myself, do I really want to? Maybe I'd mess around with it a little bit, but it wouldn't be something I dedicated a huge amount of time to. I don't think Microsoft needs that kind of thing. And Microsoft already has like Minecraft Education Edition, which is far bigger than any of these other games will ever be. So, like you can literally learn to code using Minecraft Education Edition. So they've already got it. You just didn't know about it. And people are using it already, and they're using it in schools and all that sort of stuff. So
yeah,
I don't think they need to go. They're going on that.
Rager1969 says Zucker and Fonz seem upset that early PS5 owners will miss out on a redesigned, smaller PS5. Thoughts? I mean, yeah, I saw the reports about a new PS5, but like, I think it's just an internal chip redesign, and I don't think you'll see any reduction in PS5 size or anything. I mean,
No.
they redesigned the PS4 internal chip before the Slim came out. This isn't the first time Sony would have done this, where they have revisions of the console before the Slim version. So, no, I don't think in a year from now you'll see a smaller or even better PS5. It's just literally them switching to a different chipset to help offset some of these shortages and maybe help reduce the cost of making the PlayStation to Sony. It's suddenly not going to be, well, this version of the PS5 is half the size and is now 12 teraflops and runs better. It's basically going to be the same exact thing. Am I wrong on this, Jez?
No, I don't think you're wrong, pal.
Yeah. So yeah. And Rick says, Rand, do you think we'll get Red Dead Redemption 3 later on in the gen of consoles lifespan, or a Rockstar finished with that series? I mean, I would love to see another Red Dead. I remember when they announced Red Dead 2 and it was a prequel and it was with Arthur Morgan. I wasn't as excited because I was like, I don't care about Arthur Morgan. Who is this guy? It's all about John Marston, right? And then I played Red Dead and I was like, oh, I should never have doubted you, Rockstar, because you've created yet another masterpiece and I love Arthur Morgan. So I'll be sitting here saying, well, I don't really see where they could take the franchise right now. But you never know. Maybe they come up with a good story for Red Dead Redemption 3, and if that's the case, sign me up. But if I had to guess now, I don't think we'll see Red Dead this gen. We'll be lucky if we get Grand Theft Auto 6 from them this generation, you know what I mean? So,
yep. Rockstar is all in on them service games now. It's kind of sad, really. Like, Grand Theft Auto Online is this huge phenomenon that like loads of people play, but I tried playing it a bunch of times and I just don't get it. I don't get why it's fun. Like, it's just a sandbox. Like, I don't get it. But, I don't begrudge anyone for enjoying it. But at the same time, it makes me feel sad because it feels like it's coming at the detriment of games like Red Dead and Grand Theft Auto. So, what ifs? But that's probably why the guy left, right?
I mean, probably, yeah.
The studio head, forgot his name.
But I think that's going to be the show for tonight. If you guys have any questions, make sure to put them in chat. But I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in on this Friday afternoon. We really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe if it was your first time here, if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you always know when the podcast is live. You could follow me and Jez on Twitter. And yeah, Jez. We have a question here from Los Stalga who says, isn't it hypocritical wanting Dark Souls to stay unique and niche, but want Halo to conform to typical FPS standards?
Where does that come from?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I mean, my opinion on some of this is let the devs make the game they want to make, but at the same time, it's kind of like some of these games have become platforms and they're not necessarily they've become bigger than just the games. Like, so much of Halo's lore exists outside of the games at this point. We got books and all that stuff, and it's sort of like it stops being just a game and starts being something else. But at the same time, I sort of feel like Halo is like 20 years old and needs to evolve. Resident Evil needed to evolve. Dark Souls is still relatively young, I don't think Dark Souls is at a point where people want it to evolve. People want more of the same with Dark Souls because, that's why the hype for Elden Ring is so crazily out there. Is because there's not many games like that on the market. Whereas you could argue that there's a lot of Halo has a fair amount of competition in the space. There's loads of multiplayer shooters. There's loads of similar games out there, arguably. And for Halo, which is an older franchise, to maintain the same momentum, I don't think they can keep doing the same thing over and over again, like Gears as well. Like Gears has had way more entries in its series than Dark Souls has had, and they've all basically been the same. Whereas Dark Souls, like, there's still a huge demand for that to be the same as it is. So, I don't know.
Right. I don't know. I think the difference is, I think they kind of want to keep Dark Souls niche, where I think Microsoft wants Halo to be mainstream. So you kind of need to to conform to some typical FPS standards because that's the audience you're chasing. But that is just my opinion on it. Ermi says, "Hey, Jezran, any new BC games coming or a resolution boost feature?" I wouldn't be surprised if resolution boost feature comes in the future. And I mean, they have said that they're still going to do back compat stuff, so that's just. I think they're just focused on getting everything working correctly for the Series X and S and back compat, doing some of that double frame rate stuff with FPS boost, and then they'll revisit BC games and resolution boost in the future. What else we got here? He also says, don't forget to mention Sega and the realization of dormant IPs, maybe remasters and remakes coming. We mentioned that a little bit earlier, Jez. Do you think Sega's going to revisit a lot of their older stuff and try to get some money out of their older IPs? Would you like to see any of Sega stuff come back?
Man, there is like a huge amount of untapped potential there, like Altered Beast and Streets of Rage. Like Streets of Rage 4 was just amazing, and there's obviously going to be Streets of Rage 5. And Sonic Mania was amazing too. Like, I hate 3D Sonic. And I know that's there's a lot of fans of 3D Sonic, but I hate 3D Sonic. I think 3D Sonic's totally fail. That said, I don't think it has to be fail. I think they could make it good with the right devs and the right investment. But, nostalgia can also be a massive fail. Like that, what's it called? Balamb Wonderland or Wonderworld?
Balan Wonderworld or Wonderland or whatever it's called, right?
Yeah, that one. So, like, that was a lot of the marketing for that was sort of inspired by the fact that it was by the devs who made, I can't remember the game now. Is it not Knights?
No, Knights, yeah.
Yeah. So like people were excited because it was like sort of seen as a success to that classic franchise. As you can see, it's like one of the biggest flops of recent memory, and it's just a cluttered, awful game that should not exist, frankly. But when I was playing that demo, I just couldn't understand how this had made it through to publishing. It was so bad. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So I do hope that Sega will, tap this. If they do tap some of this potential, they do it actually good and don't just make it fail. Like Sonic is so underutilized, man. Like it blows my mind. It blows my mind how mismanaged that franchise is. Sonic is one of the most recognizable characters of all time, and arguably has one of the most successful video game movies of all time. How do they cut the game so much? It just blows my mind, but we'll see. We'll see what happens, right?
Yep, we definitely will. Soiled Kleenex says, "Hey, Rand and Jez, what are the odds Sega announces Persona coming to Xbox at either E3 or their own conference or on Xboxes? Want to temper my expectations." Well, I mean, Sega recently, or I forget what was it, the producer of, like the Yakuza series talked recently about actually some of that stuff and what they want to do with Atlas. Did you see some of that stuff, Jez? I'm trying to find it where they mentioned.
Yeah,
they
announced that they want Atlas and Yakuza.
Yeah.
To be like global simultaneous multi-platform launches or something along that line.
Yeah.
Rather than sort of like the trickle out from Japan that they have been in the past.
Yeah, Sega's Shuji Utsumu told Famitsu that Yakuza 7 was the most successful title in the franchise worldwide, and he also stated that Sega wants to globally expand Atlas's games by releasing them simultaneously worldwide and possibly on multiple platforms. So, I mean, there's rumors, like Jess said, sometimes when smoke there's fire. I think Sega wants to make the Persona franchise bigger in the way that they've done with Yakuza. So you bring the entire Yakuza franchise over to Xbox. I think we'll see the Persona franchise come to Switch, PC, and Xbox, and maybe for Persona 6 it's a worldwide global release, just like they're talking about here, to get more money. So will it be revealed at this year's E3? I mean, your guess is as good as mine. I think Persona will come to Xbox at some point. I don't know about the timing of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's all about those deals and whether they can make it happen or not. I do hope. I think it would be a cool place to announce Persona and Final Fantasy 14 Realm Reborn, because as we heard, Microsoft is lifting some of the restrictions on the Xbox backend, which prevents games like Final Fantasy 14 Realm Reborn from hitting Xbox, because Microsoft wants developers to put updates to their games through their certification system, whereas Sony doesn't have that restriction, and neither does Steam. Like you don't have to get your updates certified. So because of that, that's the reason Final Fantasy 14 Realm Reborn never came to Xbox, as far as I know, is because Square Enix was saying that it wasn't business viable for them to have a system that was being held up by Xbox's certification process when it came to updates. So that Microsoft's lifting that restriction. Some of these games that were historically not on the console will hopefully start making their way across. But wait and see, man. Gotta wait and see.
Yeah. Nine Lives says dealer said he heard NXL's working on Fallout. Any truth to that? I mean, they did say they're working on a new FPS RPG, and Bethesda's tied up with Fallout or Bethesda's tied up with Starfield and Elder Scrolls for the near future. I mean, I guess maybe if Brian Fargo wants to work on a Fallout, maybe he could, unless the studio wants to work on a new IP. I mean, the problem with that is I think NXL's game is years away at this point, like years and years away. It's not something we'll see anytime soon. Rick Gaffney says, will you be getting the Xbox Series X mini fridge? Jez will probably get one sent to him because he's an influencer. Will I buy one? That's a good question. Maybe. I guess it depends on price. I don't really need a mini fridge, honestly. But it would be cool to have an Xbox Series X mini fridge. Would you get one, Jez? Would you buy one as a mini fridge to put in your room?
I don't have space for it, man. I really don't. But so I wouldn't buy one, and I don't think I would. I don't think I'd do the review either. I'd probably get it shipped to Miles.
How do you review a mini fridge? It's like, yeah, it looks like a Series X. It's got some space, some stuff. Review finished. Like,
yeah, I guess you don't review it. You probably just like showcase it.
Yeah, it's just
it's cool.
It's for influencers, bro, and you're one of them. Look at you. You're a celebrity, right? You have like over 30,000 followers on Twitter. That's classified as celebrity in the UK, right?
Yeah, that is true. But where the hell am I going to put it? Where am I going to put it, Rand?
That's a good question. I don't know. Let's see what else we got here. That's all says, is 343 going to add forced crossplay to Halo like Gears 6 did in the latest update? Or Gears 5 did? I don't think it's going to be forced. They did say it was input based, right? Where if you're playing with everybody on Xbox, then you would be matched up with people on Xbox. I guess I don't know too much about it. Where then if you're playing somebody on PC in co-op, then it would match you up with people on PC. I will say that I don't like the idea of forced crossplay. I don't want to play against people on the PC unless I specifically choose to play against people on PC. I think people on PC have an advantage in first-person shooters. So, yeah, I don't like the idea of being forced to play against users on PC if I don't want to. I guess that's what I'll say. I hope they don't do it. But I don't know too much about it. Humdrug says, Rand Jez, chances of Vowed Hellblade 2 Everwild get shown off gameplay. I think Avowed was going to get shown off. I mean, I don't know. It depends on when these games are. I think Xbox is going to focus on the near term this year and next year. So it depends. Is Everwild next year? Then it'll be there. If it's not, then probably not. Same thing for Hellblade 2 and Avowed. I think Avowed will be there. I'm not sure the other two will be, simply because I think those other two are 2023 games at this point. So we only got one more month to go, and we'll find out for sure.
It's weird to think, like, if a lot of these games are 2022, 2023, Microsoft's going to go from, like, having no games to, like, more games than anyone's realistically going to have time for.
Yeah. East Coast says, NXL's 2 projects, man, remember. That's true, but they just finished Wasteland 3, And Brian Fargo has himself said that it's going to be a while before we see what their next games are. So, I mean, he did say that, so you got to keep that in mind. Punkadish says, "What are the chances they make a larger than 1 terabyte expanded storage?" I say probably pretty good, right, Jez? I mean, they did say they're going to have different storage options and different manufacturers of the SSD solution cards after their exclusive contract runs up with Seagate, right?
Yeah, I do think there'll be more options and stuff because it's just based on the CF Express standard. So these kind of cards exist already out there. I think they just they went into some kind of exclusive partnership with Seagate for to bring the price down because Seagate can be like, well, we can do this for you, but if you give us exclusivity, we can potentially bring the price down because there's less risk for us. If they have to compete with, Samsung or some of these other brands out there that make solid state drives, they'd be like, well, there's more risk for us because we have to compete with them. So that's why they're exclusively Seagate right now. But when there's more competition in the market, and this standard proliferates a bit more, yeah, I do see prices coming down and companies starting to compete with each other on it and that sort of thing. But at the outset, I don't think it was going to be. I don't. You can't just make that competition explode out of nowhere.
Yeah. Um, JC says, when is xCloud going full release for iOS? You know anything about this, Jez?
Full release is in an app. Is it for an app?
Or
Never.
I mean, like where it's not just I guess available to every Xbox Game Pass Ultimate member, where you can just play on iOS. Because it was in beta on Android for a bit before it went live to everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah. When it's gonna roll out to more people, I don't know. It's hard to say. I think it took a good few months for the beta from Android to roll out more widely, and also you got to remember that there's a sort of bandwidth component to this. If they just enable the web version of xCloud across all PCs, Chromebooks, browsers, iPhones, iPads all at once, potentially that would lead to a massive influx of bandwidth, which could affect the whole network. And that includes Xbox console network because it's all the same system, all on the same system. So I think part of it is scaling it up smartly so we don't get it into a situation where basically Xbox is DDoSing themselves with an influx of new users. Microsoft is currently, and this ties into Richard Monroe's question, when is Microsoft going to implement Series X server blades? And Project Orion as well. So they're currently rolling out Series X server blades, and I do know that right now, if you're in Redmond in Seattle, you might be running on Series X server blades for xCloud because they're already in some places. They're testing them and they're rolling out gradually across the world. That could also take months because again, we're in a semiconductor shortage. It all sort of ties back to that, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Project Orion, I have no idea when they're going to implement that, but I will say, Richard Monroy, that I have heard that the Series X server blades have been designed with overhead in mind, specifically designed for video encoding. Right now, we're on the Xbox One S server blades, which do not have hardware designed for video encoding. So what's happening on the Xbox One S versions of the game, we're losing performance, we're losing latency because the CPU is bad, and the CPU is trying to actually run the console and the blade at the same time as encoding the video. Recently, my xCloud in the UK has become amazing, and I can play full 3D games without any lag and without any artifacting. I posted a video on my Twitter. If you go on my Twitter page and look at the media section, there is a video of me playing Halo Master Chief Collection at 60 frames per second via 100 megabyte fiber Wi-Fi, and it's flawless. There's almost no lag, and it just felt like it got a really big boost. And I was told that there was some kind of operating system update to xCloud recently, which fixed some of the bugs with some of this stuff. So it's an ongoing project. It's still in beta. Technically, even the public version is still in beta, and it's going to get better over time. But I've been told the Xbox Series X server blades should eliminate the final gap between xCloud and Stadia, and eventually we'll be in a place where Stadia just can't even compete because the tech's worse, the games are worse, and also Google's generally worse. So that's where we're at with xCloud.
Right, and I think that's a good spot to end the stream for this week. So thank you guys for being here. Thanks for all the support, all channel members, super chats, everybody just chatting it up in the comments over there. We really appreciate everyone being here. We had like 1,300 people, which is incredible. You guys make the show what it is. So if you liked it, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, all that good stuff. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Xbox 2, and hopefully we'll have more stuff to talk about. I'm expecting, or at least I'm hoping, Microsoft announces their E3 plans here really soon. It's getting pretty close, so maybe they announce it next week. That'd be super interesting. You got anything to say before we get out here, Jez?
No, man. Just thanks to everyone for joining us. Smash that like button and check out Windows Central Gaming YouTube channel as well. And
they got
subscribe to that as well, please.
Colt Eastwood and Miles.pa tomorrow on Xbox Chatter Days. Make sure you subscribe to that YouTube channel and read all of Jez's articles when he puts out throughout the week on Windows Central. And for me, I'll be dropping more videos throughout the week whenever there's stuff to cover. Usually Mondays, maybe Wednesdays and Thursdays. But we'll see you next week, guys. Keep it gaming, and we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.